I have put a post to copy and paste into World Chat.
Okay, so I'll mute myself.
Oh, actually, I need to add plus drops.
So good luck, kurwa.
I will pause the music audience as well. Or do you want background music on?
I don't know really. What do you think?
I mean, if we have the game footage, music, and us talking, it's probably too much, right? So I'll turn the music off. So what we're going to do, guys, is a little live podcast episode. I should probably change the name of the stream now as well, actually. Bam, podcast time. So for those that don't know in chat, me and Drayton have been doing the It's Just Not Your Day podcast, which the next episode should be coming out soon, right, Drayton? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Should be today.
And then
When
we're doing like shut up. We're doing like an extra episode now with Madshin, who's coming with us.
Yeah, hello.
Drayton, do you wanna take it over?
Yeah, let's kick it off. How's everyone doing today? How's the stream going?
Well, it's been quite fun this morning, to be fair. Just chilling in sieges, watching me int over and over again.
I've been watching Vet cry about not getting 200 surf kills.
I know, it's terrible. I think like 100 of his kills were surfs that game.
Okay, I'm just going to load up the article, and I think probably the best thing to kind of do is let Madshin introduce himself, and then we'll dive kind of straight into why we want to talk about this and kind of the urgency that this news came out with, and how to go from that. So Madshin, tell everyone about yourself, please.
So yeah, basically, I start the game in season 5 on EU4. So I'm like an EU4 dog. And after I became an EU2 dog when they merged the server. During all this time I was playing and leading Aurora with Arcanop. So teaching like French players to play. And we do some great results in some season. And after we moved to E1, we joined Eden. Because there was already some link, because I was in the Eden team by Vazek. And so after the Eden team disband, I create no bitches in same times. And since I manage no bitches, I stopped the TW part. And I do the way to the win. It was a long way, but we finally make it last season. So we just have finished. We just have win the last CB rival, and that's basically all for the pass that I do on the game.
Perfect. And we recently saw the dev announcement that came out from not only My Games but also the Booming side, where they clearly had done some interaction between the community and the developers, a simple Q&A, and we got a series of answers, and then we got some more quick answers or quick questions from the Booming side that we then didn't see in the My Game side. Should we work through that article now? Basically, like, we can start top to bottom, unless there's any like topics you really want to talk about now, and I think let's just kick off, really. Unless there's anything you'd like to start with, either of you.
I mean, the only thing that I want to say is, like, for a lot of players that play CBs for a long time, we are all missing something from the dev. It's like talking on the roadmap, you know? What is going to happen on the game in the next year, for example. I think we all play CB with no clue what is the dev direction for the game. So it's finally good to get some information from them. That's why for me it was important to react to this patch and to this dev.
Definitely. I think I mentioned it on stream just before you guys came in, but it's like one of the biggest feedback and biggest like points we've raised on the podcast this whole season is that we just don't have enough communication with the devs or with My Games in general. There's just not that communication there. And we spoke about historically how they used to have a update team that would tell us why they've made changes, right? They'd say, oh, we're changing this because of this. And so like this dev journal that's come out now is a really good step forwards if they carry this on in the future, because it's giving us a lot more information. They're not saying we're going to do this specific thing at this time, which is fine, but they're just saying this is where we want to look at going, and it's more of a general roadmap, but it's not, you know, it's not promising things that they can't deliver. It's just saying this is where we want to head, and this is where we want the game to go in this direction, and these are issues we're looking at. and I think that's just massively appreciated by the population.
I was talking with Millard, a lot about this, about the fact that we don't have roadmap, and they tell me the dev don't want to do roadmap anymore because of the elephant thing, that they promise something that they can provide, and so it make big drama from the player. And so I say that's what I was saying to Millard. We don't need that. We don't need like a time where things will come. Just like global idea of what they want to do for the game.
Yeah,
we need
like,
macro,
they
not
don't,
micro.
Yeah, so they don't need to say, we're going to bring out this skin on this date if you buy this thing. It's just, these are the big topics we're looking at. This is the problems we've seen that you guys have raised. We want to look at working on this. They don't have to give us an exact time, but it just acknowledges some of the issues, right? I think that's one of the biggest things. So like the first point, for example, we can talk about that. They're acknowledging the fact that there's been crashes and disconnects. And that's a big thing for them, because a lot of the time they're just like, oh yeah, just write a ticket to support, it's fine, they'll deal with it. But actually acknowledging that there's an issue here and they're trying to work around it, I think is a massive step forwards.
Yeah, for sure. And when we really read this, for me the most important point is they are not delusional. Like all this, like they point some really big issue that we get in the game, and it's good to see as player that they also see it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, on that subject, it might be worth digging into the optimization. Would it be helpful if I just read out what the thing is for everyone listening, or should we just highlight the key points? What do you think?
I mean, read the important part, but on the optimization, there is a lot of things that is like little, and you don't need to much care about it.
I agree. So the TLDR of that is that the game has been crashing a lot for a number of seasons, and we need to acknowledge that has been a problem, and it is another reason why some people have quit the game, is because they're sick and tired of crashing. And we had
this season being the worst for it, right?
Yeah, we had a real problem with the probably last 2 months, where there was a break between the end of the game and then the loading screen, where the victory essentially bar took forever to pop up, and a number of people would crash at that incident or that instance and then never get their rewards, because they've essentially, as far as the game's concerned, alt F4'd, and then they can't do anything, or they just get miserable because of the fact they've just played 25 minutes of a siege for nothing. And that's one of the things that really annoyed a lot of people, and they've openly admitted that it has been a problem. And as I think, Madshin, you're really aware of what the numbers are, the My Games population of Conqueror's Blade is really, really small in terms of the total setup. We are missing a lot of information from the other servers, as well as we don't have enough information about our own server really to make these kind of judgments. So if we're having these problems, and we're a very small minority, are other people having them? It looks like they are, judging from this feedback.
The only thing that is tricky, one thing that makes us lag way more than the other server on the My Game one is the anti-cheat. We don't got the same anti-cheat that they got in Frontier, for example, and our anti-cheat is way more heavy, and we have way less abuse than them, so it looks like it works better. But we got some issue from the game optimization from the anti-cheat that is something else than booming. So this is the only little change that we got. But yeah, for the crash, and that was the first line that they say when they talk about the optimization is the life, the game life, a bit. If you come on a game and you're a new player and the game is fully laggy, you don't play more than 10 hours and you leave, because you know that your experience will be bad. So it's something that you have to focus on as a developer, or you will never get new player. Because some old player like us and veterans, when you really love the game, you can say, oh, okay, it's a crash, it's fine, restart the game. But as new player, it's really more a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so new players might not even know that you can load back in. So, oh, the game's crashed, I'm going to go off and play something else now. They might not even try and come back, right? And it's going to be an issue. If they don't know it's an issue, they're saying, oh, there's something wrong with my system, is something installed wrong? And you see it all the time with players on the official Discord being like, why does my game keep crashing? Whereas the veteran
one
players,
of the most common questions.
Yeah, and the veteran players, it's like, oh cool, it's crashed, I'll just load back in 2 minutes, it's fine. It's not ideal, but I can deal with that, that's fine.
Okay.
Even if you want to make some publish for the game and you want to invite some streamer and some big content creator, they come on a game where they crash, probably the worst publicity you can make for the game.
I've already crashed once this morning while I was streaming. I think it was the first game I played, I crashed as we're pushing base point, and it was just like, not ideal. But it's like, how do I comment on this to try and not talk badly about the game, but at the same time my game just crashed?
That's unideal.
That's not ideal, guys. We'll load back in a second.
So that's the crashing side. What other optimization points did we think were also valid that were addressed? If I work through now, they're talking about asset optimization, engine algorithm, improved performance, and standard testing process. I guess that's how it judges your setup as on an individual level, and then package size and compatibility issues. Let's start with game assets, textures, things like that. How much of a problem do we think they currently are, and do we think what they proposed is actually accurate?
It's like historically, the textures and the graphic stuff have been an issue in this game, right? You know, there was like famous examples where, like, you know, when someone throws in cocos on a point or flames, they would just crash your system, or you lag horrendously because of all the textures on there. Or there was the famous one back on Linmu when it first came up, where the bonfire on the last point would cause your game to crash with the particles. And so that's going to be an issue. That's always been an issue with the game. They fixed it, obviously, but a lot of people had to turn down their settings because of it to make the game run reasonably, or to turn off settings completely to make the game run. You know, turning off shadows, lowering the textures, the particles, you know, turning off the dead bodies on the map. They've always had a lot of issues there with that. So the fact they're addressing that now and saying that they can, you know, potentially change things forwards to make it better is really healthy for the game. And again, it's just them acknowledging it, right? They're acknowledging there's an issue there that the players have been complaining about for many seasons.
But I mean, when you compare some other game, me, I come from Black Desert, who is way more beautiful than Conqueror Blade. But when you look the option of the game, you can make the game so trash and ugly that even with the worst PC ever, you will have like full FPS on it. One of the biggest problem of Conqueror Blade is like, back in the age, you have no option of optimization. Okay, you can remove the shadow and lower the texture, but you can, before, like during long time, we can't hide the corpse, we can't hide all the effect. If you hide the effect, you hide the thread that you probably don't want to hide.
Invisible threads,
so,
yeah.
like there is so retard option and not enough option. So, for me, if you want the game more, like more people able to make the game turn, just make option for the people to lower everything and keep the thread.
There was also a point where I think if you lowered your settings to a certain point, you then started to perform worse again. Like there was almost like a medium level seemed to be the best performance for the game, and that's where people like Amir then went and created their video on how to get the best FPS possible out of this game.
Yeah, I mean, there were people
from
that
memory,
said
it was
that
one of the most popular videos this game has ever had.
He still gets questions about it now as well, right?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, sorry to interrupt there, but I was going to say, like, one of the biggest feedback that I've had is people will say, why does my game run better on high settings than it does on low? It still doesn't run good enough, but their game runs better on the higher setting than it does on the low because the game was just really badly optimized in those.
They talk about in the thing that they might not make all the tests on the new generation of component. Like they talk about it somewhere in the text. So they say it's normal if maybe with like better RAM and better everything, you will have more trouble. So okay, them fine.
Oh, let me just downgrade my PC to play Conqueror's Blade then. That sounds great.
They say something else that like trigger me, and they say like we make some new visual for weapons, for unit, like, and all of that has a cost for the performance. I'm like, so they know that when they put, for example, the new Orskin, the season, like 2 seasons ago, not the new one, the fire one, like people was literally crashing in the city. Like if someone run,
I would be running around in circles, yeah, and people go, stop running around! Oh god, my game's crashing.
I think it was showing you in Daisheng. He run in the city and he make like 7 people deconnection in 1 second. In my friend list, I see everyone deconnect. I was like, okay, so this is the game that I play.
I was doing something similar because we would just literally run around the city in circles, just running round in circles just to get the noise to keep popping, and you would just see people disconnecting all around you. It was so funny.
Yeah. And also, you'd hear the noise on the other side of the city.
Didn't matter where you were, you could hear it everywhere. Yeah, that was fun.
You could hear it perfectly clear. So my understanding of how the game is coded is it's quite modular. So they basically will code all the interactions regarding the horse armor and then plug it in to the rest of the game code. And they slowly but surely then optimize it based on that. And it's a very quick way of adding new cool features, but it's a very inoptimal way of making a smooth game. And I'm really, really hoping, and this is one of the points that they are actively addressing in their post, is that they're getting a dedicated team for this. There's a team that's going to be looking at it. The timeline, I think they are very right to not give us a timeline on when they expect things to happen, because how long is a piece of string? We have no idea how long this is going to take, or what the outcome of their discoveries are going to be of this team. A lot of people have said, oh, is there going to be a Conqueror's Blade 2? But realistically, they have a pretty good game, they have a pretty good fundamental of a game, they just need to make it work. So
one of the trouble, and like this is something that you have to know, booming tech is is an industry that want to sell a physics motor. Like
yeah,
the motor of
this
the
game was
is
made
unique.
to create a model, right? It was made to create just that base version for them to sell. They didn't want to create a game originally. They just did it to sell their base system.
Yes, exactly. And so the problem of it is like the base system have limits. And I talk a lot with Millard, and when you see that more the season go, more we lag. And when they try to make some new units, some new mechanic, we have like big issue. It's cause like we are limited. It's not like if you are on Unreal Engine, the last version, we will have less troubles than what we are. But the problem is like till they want to sell the motor, like the Chaos Engine, they have to. You know, it's the limit of the game, but it's the part of the game because Booming want to sell it, so they will never move out of the Chaos Engine. And I'm not sure that this version will be able to follow the game during long time. You know, so that's why some people talk about maybe a CB2 or something like this, because one day they will have to step out of Chaos Engine, maybe go on the new version of it, because it's pretty like it's a big limit for the game.
What people also have to realize though is this game has been a success, right? Like, look at most other games that they couldn't handle the amount of units and things on the screen that this game handles, right? This game does very well for what it does. It's not perfect, but they've done a good job with this game.
Yeah, I remember seeing some of the, certainly on my own performance for the computer side, the worst ones are when you have the most units, or most large units possible in the fight. For example, Territory War, where you got 30 units of cav in the fight. That's when performance is at its worst. So the game operates really, really well, but it's when you're playing in that really competitive edge, where you want the performance more than ever, is where it feels like it's letting you down or lets the players down.
It's the likes of Territory Wars, right? Like historically, An Liang in Season 8, wasn't it, when Origin was in there, and they were just like, that one war, I think it was every single server, had horrendous lag. Just horrendous lag, where like the game would freeze for like 5 seconds for everyone. Like no one could load in, no one could use any abilities. There's been quite a few cases that like when they add something new as well, the amount of times where the start of the season, the first couple of Territory Wars just don't work because they've added so much in and the game just can't handle it. Because like you said, it's modular how they add all the changes on. So there have been historically a lot of issues like that where the game just doesn't work.
And even more recently, if you remember the CBL, the Claymore thing, you know, the fact that when you active the Claymore buff, you make the lobby crash and you make people with bad connection get like 200 billion like ping. This is still actually in the game. If you play some Claymore with people that don't got the fiber, they will get sounded in the space. Like me, during long time, I don't have fiber, and when someone was playing the Claymore, I was at 11k of ping.
Wow.
The funny thing was, so obviously it happened in CBL, but that we were actually tempted one game as plebs just to play 15 Claymores just to prove to them that it was broken and just to crash the whole system. We were so tempted to do it the one round, just play 15 Claymores, get out of it and do it. Because it happened in scrims all the time. Because obviously plebs was a team that I used to quite like having Claymores in there because I used to buff all the units obviously. And it's not as strong now, but it was fairly strong in those tournament settings, and I used to quite often put Claymores in there. So in scrims, then we'd just be like, oh, someone's crashed, that's probably the Claymores we're playing. Oh, another person's crashed. Like, we'd see it all the time.
Fundamentally, what do we think that is? What do we think is the cause of that?
For me, this is super easy. Like, I think there is a big problem in the way that the buff work. It's like, it's sending a message to the player client, and you have to upload like the message send. And when you put the Claymore buff in middle of billion of units, you have to download the data of every single unit that get the buff, and so it make me like, because it's like an upload, and it's exactly the same when you push a tower. It was the same with the back paper. So every time when there is a bug or when you have to send data to the server and to get data back, you have big lag. For me, this is the Chaos Engine that have the issue.
Yeah, I think that's how it does it. It basically tries to rewrite temporarily all of the stats for the units around them, and therefore it's a big communication issue.
Bagpipes.
And bagpipes is another great
Bagpipes.
example, crashing everything. Okay, is there anything else we want to talk about on that, or should we move on? Because I noticed that we actually have quite a lot to talk about.
We can move on.
We'll crack on because there's.
I
other,
think just
key things
just
as
a
well.
note to add on that is, again, it is great they've highlighted there's issues. They've spoken about some of the issues and that they want to work on going forwards with it. Like we said at the start, they haven't given us set dates. They're not going to fall back on anything. It's just they've highlighted some of the key issues that we've had as a community for a long time, and this is what we've been looking for. It's just some acknowledgement of that, and so it's great they've done that.
Okay. We'll also take this opportunity, if you're in chat and you've got any points you want us to talk about regarding optimization, now is the time. So please feel free to discuss, and we'll kind of set it up for the next point. So the other thing that, if we look at the optimization, is package size and compatibility issues. The game is quite large now, right?
I think it's like 66 gigs or something now if you have to re-download the whole game.
66 gigs. And the number of times people, I've certainly heard, have said, I have to re-verify the whole game. And that means they're then late for territory war, they're then late for scrims in some cases. I don't want to question how large the game needs to be, but are there like a number of assets in there that we think are probably worth dropping at this point, or
but again, though,
does this like adding to?
Does this fall back to how they've actually just made the game in the first place, right? As we said, it's a modular system, so it's constantly adding stuff on top. That's how it's done, and so that's why, like we said, we get all the crashing when they do things, because suddenly they realise, oh, that doesn't actually work with this thing that we already had in there, because of how they've made it modular and how they've done it like that. I mean, it's not a massive size, right? If you look at the size of what the game actually is, I think 60 gigs isn't that bad, right? In comparison to other games out at the moment, right?
Yeah.
So it's not the worst, in my opinion. I mean, you do get the annoying part of it is the bug, right? So like I had it even last week where I had to re-download 7 gigs. It wasn't even the whole game, just 7 gigs. Every time I logged in, it would tell me I had to re-download it. I didn't have to. I can just press abort and then go through, and it's fine. But that's what they would try and tell me to do every single time.
Yeah, that is frustrating. We will talk about Territory Wars later.
Yeah, we're going through the whole dev blog update, guys. So the link for the dev update is pinned in the chat. So that's what we're discussing through.
Okay, so the next one, which is another reason why Madshin is perfect for this, is balancing the battlefield. There's obviously a lot of things that make balance what it is, and we also have to recognise that this is a free-to-play game, so there needs to be some form of income for the people publishing it, and therefore we're likely to always see strong seasonal units. However, in the past we've had oppressively strong seasonal units, and then we've had next to no recognition that they are strong, or the buffs come in the wrong places and they don't actually affect why the unit is so strong.
I think one
does
thing
anyone want
that
to open up about that?
Well, I should say one thing that I really liked. This is the first thing they said, which is that with the recent adjustments and the addition of like the unit masteries, they've seen the game go to a more heavy infantry like setup. So well, as they put it, they found a suitable battle rhythm for the battlefield. It's not heavy cav, it's not arrow rain, but it's a focus on the ground advance as a primary pace setter, which I think is true. I think they still need to tweak YYD to make that completely true, but I think that's the healthiest way for the game. Is that it is now focused around a heavy infantry melee setup. Yes, you can play range, yes, you can play cav and do work with it in the right scenarios, but most of the game is decided on those big melee pushes, which I think is the healthiest way for the game to be, personally.
For me, the little trouble in this one is like, I was talking with Stratton yesterday, they balanced the game more for the casual part than for the tournament, because in tournament there was already big melee fight. It was already this since age, and when they talk about arrow rain and about cavalry, the people crying about the cavalry before the when there was like little issue in the game was already the case, because for a long time, like I think since season 10, since the Kashig, cavalry wasn't that much a trouble before the Yan Yadao.
I think it has been every now and then, right? Normally they'll just like tweak, so like when Liao's got buffed, for example, was that 2 seasons ago? There's been little cases like that.
But it's like more issue with one cav than with the global cavalry.
Yeah, for sure.
Where they suck at the balance. And when they talk about arrow rain didn't exist in the tryhard part of the game, so they choose to balance the game more for the casual game. So to say, okay, we want more melee fight even in the random game. We want people to pick him shield. That It's like not something that people was doing, because when you play a siege, you want to do stat to get fun, and obviously when you play Him Shield, you will not stat a lot before, because no.
I mean, it's always been a big issue in the game, right? It's like there are very much two clear sides to this game. There is the casual siege gameplay, and there is the competitive side. And I think with this update, we'll obviously talk about it a bit more in one of the later sections, but they've made it very clear that they want to focus on the siege side of things rather than the competitive side. I think for me personally, they've made that clear, because they've said that they're not interested in CBL. They'll do some fan-made ones, but they're not interested in that side of it. They want to focus on balancing the game for the casuals, basically. That's how I read it. I don't know if you guys are the same.
I fundamentally don't agree with that, because the booming side are looking and gearing up towards their next CBL already.
Yeah,
I'm talking about my game specifically. That's what I'm talking about.
So on my games, yes, I think you're right. But I think in terms of larger player base outside of our servers, they are very much gearing up for more CBL. But do they?
But they've always had
CBL
as like their main thing, though, right? Whereas my games has always been a bit lax on it. Like they have CBL every 3-4 months. They have a CBL on booming, whereas we have one every 2 years.
I think it's every 6 months.
It was 2 by year before, and now it's 1 by year.
Okay.
Because the new one will start when the old ones start last year. So.
Yes, winter CBL again.
Yeah. But
whereas
the problem for me
2 years.
is like, so for the people who didn't read the dev note, they said, okay, this season we focus on masteries on melee units, so that's why there is, except the Jav, only melee unit with the masteries. And at the start of the patch, I think we all got the same trouble when they give masteries to Him Shield when the unit was already broken. So it was pretty weird. And now they say why they do this. They want the melee fight to be the main core of the game. And after you can grab some range and some cav, but they want the game to be built around the melee, so that's why they up the melee. And this is kind of thing that you have to say before, because us as player, when there is already like 10 Him Shield in my lobby, I want to know why you give them masteries to get like 12 Him Shield. This is something
but
that
then
I want to know.
I think it's just the order they brought it out, right? Because now they brought out other masteries. You don't see as many Imp Shields being played anymore, because people are playing Javs, people are playing, Imp Pikes that then got buffed as well. We've got the Palace Guards that got buffed as well. I think it's just the order that they brought it out was probably the wrong order. Maybe they should have left Imp Shields to be last.
They kind of just worked their way down the unit tree, though.
Yeah,
that was the thing.
Well, you've got to look from their point of view as well. If they buff a unit that's already popular, then it's going to get played more and people will be more happy with it, right? That's probably their logic. Whereas if they just picked an obscure unit to buff, people wouldn't have played it as much. Maybe the system wouldn't have been such a big success. Whereas I feel like the mastery system overall has been a big success. And I do like the changes they brought in. Obviously, I am a bit biased towards shields because they are probably one of my most played unit, being a longsword main. But I think overall the mastery system has been a great introduction. I just think the order they did it in was probably backwards.
I'm pretty agree with what they conclude by saying that it will bring big, diverse ecosystem of units, and this I'm like totally alright. Actually, with the few masteries that we already got, it make close to all units playable, and it carry to some like different meta that you can play around the Jav, around the Impact, Him Shield. Like all the units become something interesting with some new skill, and this was something that the game was needing to make a big rework on the all units, so the unit from the tree. Because for the beginner, it was all bad, and you have to get the one from season. So that's pretty good for beginner also. So I think it's a really good update on this. They also say that they want to move on the unit season after, when they have finished the tree one. So this I'm more scary, Because if you give mastery to Berserker, to I don't know, there's a lot of you that you don't want to see.
I'm still terrified of the mastery for longbows, because people play them religiously now. What are they going to do when they've got a nice little gold border on their icon? They're going to be absolutely obsessed with them.
But I think Archer are pretty big trouble for the dev, because when you see the patch notes, they say that Arrow Rain is not what they want. They want some melee fight, and they know that the game experience is pretty bad when you have 5 Gav in your lobby with Archer. This is just a reality that you have to face, and they know. I'm sure they don't want to bring this, so they are probably pretty blocked with the Archer, because they can't give them the task that they want. Normally, an Archer, you want him to be destroyer of the backline, but if you make them too strong, there will be too much in the game, and the game will be a garbage. So that's pretty a touchy place. So I think they will do the Cav before the Archer in the masteries, and I'm curious to see what they do.
Cav mastery could be terrifying as well.
Racks. imagine. I don't even want to begin to think what they'll do for that.
No, but okay, the dagger axe is already strong, so they can make a weak master race. But you know, you have the yeoman who is like completely trash, and not the arminger, the yeoman.
Yep.
You have the heavy pref cav that is trash, but have something in the gameplay that can be interesting.
It could be interesting, yeah, because I
love
love previous heavy cav. It's one of my most played cav, honestly. Because back in like pre-season stuff, they were so good. Because it's a very different playstyle to like any other cav. Because you only X move them, right? You never charge because the charge is kind of garbage. You can get some work from it, but it's like, yeah, it's such a unique unit. I think that they could do some interesting stuff with.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, this would be like the thing that we have to follow anyway. And also the other question as a competitive player for the Masteries is like there will be in tournament server in CBL or not, and same for the Reforge also.
Yeah,
I'm like,
we don't know.
And we will see with the in October with the Asian CBL, because it will be pretty weird to balance the game with the Masteries and with the Doctrine, and at the end your main mod, like your biggest competition, is without the Masteries and without the Doctrines.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Because it's also balanced the game with the Doctrines this last day with all the thing that they released. So pretty weird, you know.
Just one point to raise, Logic, because you said about Cataphracts, but I think they reading through it, they said they weren't going to do tier 5, like they weren't going to do 5-star masteries.
So they said
they will not add new 5-star unit mastery, but rather focus on balancing 5-star units. So, but that still could bring some interesting changes.
We'll talk about that shortly. So let's now just quickly move on. In the short term, we will not add 5-star unit mastery. Short term, not long term. So it may well come soon. For lower star units, we'll gradually unlock their mastery potential, exploring more possibilities in terms of gameplay experience. So I think that's an interesting one, because mastery for me is kind of just a different form of veterancy, right? Like you had the option of going down a veterancy line and it unlocking a certain playstyle for units. We can take Imp Javs as the perfect example, where one line is very much Jav heavy, the other side is very much melee heavy. And by picking one, you're kind of shoehorned yourself into a particular playstyle. Halberdier Sergeants is another one, where top line is charge, bot line is brace and defense. Where the general consensus from the top level players is that the brace is the way to play, and then the mastery comes out and says this is a charging unit.
Yeah.
And therefore all the top players went, well, I'm not going to use my mastery points on that because it's a waste of time. It's not how the unit is designed to be played. Is that something that we as players are missing, where we're potentially like missed out on actually a ton of damage coming from a unit played in a way that no one will expect to play? Because obviously units that slightly break the meta that people aren't aware of are a really useful and powerful tool in breaking the sieges, but they then don't get any work at all at the top level because everyone knows how to play against them.
I think it depends on, right, sorry, a small point for me. I think it depends, right, because most top players will look at it and think that's not going to be useful in tournaments. They don't care about how it's going to play in sieges. Like, that's not going to be useful in competitive play, so I don't need to worry about it.
Because for me, for the Halberdier, the trouble is somewhere else. You know, in the Masteries, it's like after charging, they go in a firm position, and this is what, as a good player, I don't want. I don't want my unit to play by himself. I want to choose what he's going to do, like what I'm going to do. And so when you add a Masteries that makes your units do something by himself after charging, for me it's pretty weird, because it's not like what I want the unit. So that's why this Masteries for me is like pretty bad, because like it make the unit run stupidly and try to brace at some random position. So like for me it's complete garbage, because every time they try to make it like completely random, it's broken or bug. You know, the Cache Shake 2, where you don't control your unit, and you can X-move, so it was a bit bug. Or the Liao thing, like even they run on all units and they kill everything and it's broken, or it's completely garbage because you can't control the unit. It was the same for the Berserker. This is the kind of thing that I don't like in the game, and that's why I don't like the Halberdier Veterans, for example. So it's not much because it's the charge, because like we'll say Temple, as a competitive player, if something is strong, we play it because it's strong, and that's all. Even it's like something that we do not used to use the Halberdier to charge. If it kill like I don't know 50 unit by charge, I will use it. You know, it's more it's more about like the way that the thing is going to work and how much I can optimize the gameplay of the unit.
But you can take another unit as an example of that, the Huskars. The Huskars actually have a really high damage threshold, and they can one-shot things, but their unpredictability of their charge means that they might, like I call it tethering, like the person that they want to go and attack, they tether onto might be in completely the wrong direction to where you want them to go, and therefore you have no control and they're unsatisfying to play.
Yeah.
And I'd like to just raise a topic here that I think would be interesting to talk about, because there was also some patch notes that came out quite recently and some leadership changes that happened on certain units. When we look at the idea that our goal is to create a battlefield ecosystem centered on 5-star units, that is the phrasing that's come from the developer update. What do we think about the current state of Tier 5 versus what we feel is a healthy position for the game to be in Tier 5 wise?
I think,
and this is sorry, let's just focus this on my games. We do have the knowledge that leadership doctrines exist on other servers, and they make things obviously a bit more difficult. But what do we think about Tier 5?
I think at the moment they're just underpowered in general, right? There's a few that you can do work with, but realistically, Tier 4 is what most people play, right? You have a couple of Tier 5s that can do some work, but the large majority of them, just not worth playing.
For me, it's a bit different. I got like pretty big different vision. Like T5 are like the special unit that will make the difference. So it's like the Shenji, the Cav, like the T5 Cav will all be the Cav that make the difference. The Flame, all this kind of unit, and like the Orochi this season. So it's all the time a unit that will not be the main part of the comp, but it will make the little difference. So
yeah, that's how it should be.
This is maybe what they mean by it will be ruling by the T5, because at the end, except the Coco, who is a bit like the Zikan Militia, who is a bit an error in the game, in terms of exotic and thing, it's the T5 that rules the fight, for real. So, maybe this is on what they mean it, because, yes, of course, obviously, we'll all the time play more T4 because of the price than T5. And maybe this sentence is more for the CBL part, because if you watch the Asian CBL, there was no T5 play. In Europe, there was pretty low amount. Because you prefer, like with the leadership you have, you prefer to play triple T4 for example. So maybe it's more on this part of the game that they was not satisfied to see that T5 are completely not used. Because in the other parts in TW you use close to only T5, like most of the time. And for the big impact, it's still T5 in the that you use in Cyber Rival, for example.
Yeah, I think they do have a big impact, but I think that there's a handful of ones that have a big impact, right? When you look at the amount of Tier 5s we have, I would say more than half of them just aren't played at all, right? There are some that have it, and I think that's what they mean. Like you said, I think that's what they mean is that they want to have the big impact being the Tier 5. I just think at the moment they aren't currently like that. I think they're starting to get there with the likes of like the Reaper buff with the 2 extra models. That's brought them back, especially with that new doctrine as well, has brought them back to being a good unit now that you can play. My concern is they'll go too far with it, and we'll get the likes of the YYD that we had last season, where it's just one unit can wipe like 80 units by itself and just completely win an entire fight. What it needs to be, and which is what it sounds like they're going for, is like you'll be having a big fight with mainly Tier 4s, 1 or 2 Tier 5 can tip that fight in your favour, but it's not going to be stupidly overpowered. That's how I want to look at it. So it will be enough that it can help you win that fight, but it's not just going to one-shot the entire team. And that's my concern, I think, with them if they buff it too far.
For me, the basic thing that it should be, it's like the unit that you pick in T5 should be the best of this category. So if I want an anti-cav, my T5 anti-cav should be the best by far because it costs me more. Same for the shield or the front. Actually, Im Shield should be a T5 because they rules the fight like it was a T5.
I'm still waiting for a Tier 5 Imp Shield. Maybe next season we'll get that right.
Yeah, but like, when you see the T4 one, I don't want to see the T5. If you have to be stronger than this, I don't want more. So I'm just like, be sure that your game all the time. For example, Siladar for me is the perfect example. It should be the best melee infantry in terms of design of the gameplay and the ID.
I would disagree on that. I think it should be the best melee infantry at like killing shields because that's what it was designed for originally, right? It was designed to kill shields, and there was a couple of seasons where it was really good at it, and then they just didn't touch it and they buffed everything else, and now it's kind of useless. I see it. That's how I see it. It's like it should be the best melee at killing shields. Reapers should be a close second, but Reapers are a mix because they also have the sword mode, so you can just take the normal fight as well. Reapers for me should be like the best just brawling melee. Siladar should be the best at taking out shields. Then you've got shield maidens are the best at buffing and DPSing, and there's different
for me,
niches.
Shield Maiden take the role of the Siladar. Siladar should be the DPS T5 unit, and Reaper should be the Breezer, and Maiden should be the front. And I don't know what happened with the Protect Commander when they decided to do this, but when they give the DPS of the Siladar to the Maiden, I didn't understand, because this should be the job of the Siladar to slash like the Maiden do.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in what you suggested there, which is the tier 5 should be best in slot in their category. They should be, if you want the best, let's say, gun unit versus no shields, should be tertios. If you want the best, like line breaker for an infantry, it should be a Reaper, because they are your battering ram. Yeah. But we look at units like Varangian Guards that do nothing well compared to their purple equivalents. We look at some of the Cav units. Oh, let's take Hussars right now. They are not the best charging Cav, but they were kind of designed to be that. Unless tier 5s like sit in that best in slot position, they just don't get played, and that's.
Well, the biggest thing with Hussars,
of tier 5.
Hussars specifically, right? They have a line in their tech tree that says their charge cannot be stopped, and yet everything stops their charge. That's one of the biggest things for me. It's like, because that's how I see it as well. Like Hussars should be that cav that can just charge through and can't be stopped. Right? It doesn't have it doesn't have the best tankiness, because obviously monastics take that, but it has just high damage. It should be any anti-cav basically with its lance. Obviously imp pikes are different to that, but it has the longest lance. It should just be able to charge straight through, and that should be its job, right? And the way to counter it is you could just move out the way, or there's got to be, maybe there's one unit that counters the imp pikes can counter it, let's say, for example. But it's, at the moment, Hussars are useless. Monastics have had a comeback, which I really love at the moment. Monastics are coming back into the meta again, just because of everything.
They get less concerned when they're at top speed than Hussars, so and they don't have the veterancy that say that you don't.
And with those doctrines as well, like the Noble Blood doctrine, suddenly made them a lot stronger as well. Like they brought a few doctrines in there which have just changed the meta completely as well, which I think is great. Because even like I said, that new doctrine they brought in for the special units has now made Reapers with the extra 2 models back into the meta. They're not overpowered, we can kill everything, but they can trade into on a musher, they can trade into a beat on a musher, they can trade into a lot of melee fights, they can obviously fight shields with their mace mode, so there's a lot of different ways they can now come back into it. And I love that instead of just making a unit stronger, they've brought in a doctrine that can be used on many different units that has actually brought some of these units back into the meta again.
Yeah. But for me, one of the problems is like when they dev a unit, they have to understand what will be the role, and VG is a good example. When they dev the VG, it was when we pick it because it was broken, but till it's not broken, he don't have really a place. It's not the it's not the best DPS. It's not a good front because you can, like, even if the one make you tanky, you can use it as a front ruler in the fight. So when they build a unit like this and they don't give me accurate job, at the end, if it's not broken, you will not pick it. And it's kinda the same. Like I'm a bit scared for the Orochi. The moment where it's not broken and you stop one-shotting everything with a one, but I think people will stop playing it because you don't have like accurate job to do in the fight.
But I do like that the units they've done this season, right? Because they're very strong, but they're also incredibly weak. They're very easy to counter. So it's like high risk, high reward gameplay, and it's having that, again, we've spoken about a lot in the podcast before, but it's that rock, paper, scissors balancing, right? Like they're very good at one thing, but they're very weak at another thing, and I think that is a good way of doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's just niche picks as well, like, so there have been units that haven't been played by everyone, but then we look at the competitive side, teams will play 1 or 2 of them and do really well with them, but people don't play them in sieges because they don't realise that potential, or they just don't have the same potential in sieges when you're playing with random players. So it's such a difficult thing with the balancing, and we touched on it earlier, but it's like, how do they want to balance this game? Like, should they be balancing it for the average siege player? Should they be balancing it for competitive side, when they've said they're not going to focus on that competitive side of the game?
Yep.
For me, you should all the time balance for the competitive.
I agree.
At the end, it's the guys that will rule the meta for the other. It's the case for League of Legends, it's the case for every game.
And it's the best publicity for the game, right? Is tournaments and things on the competitive side. Obviously, it's been less with this version of the game, but if you look at Booming, for example, and they have a 10k prize pool for the winners, they're going to get more content because of that. They're going to get more viewership because of that. They're going to get more attention because of that, and bring more players to the game.
Yeah.
So it should be more balanced around that.
But one of the problems that they have in the balance, and I think this is the main problem for Conqueror Blade since Age, is like when a unit is good in Siege, you would get like 15 people picking it, and the unit will become like broken when you have a mass. It was the case for the Axe Rider. If like even when the Axe Rider was really good, if there was only 1 in the lobby, it's pretty easy to face it. But when you have 50 in a fight, you are done. And same for the Liao. 1 Liao was manageable 15 wasn't.
You
It's
look
the
at
same
last
for every
season.
unit, so
Right, look at last season. Like literally every ranked lobby basically was everyone was playing Yanidao Monk 40, 15 players on both sides. Like there were literally lobbies where every single person was playing Monk's 40s Yanidao.
yeah.
And that was 30 players in a lobby all playing the same units because of how strong they were at the current meta. And I think actually this season I think it's been the most balanced, right?
Yeah,
think-
you still have like 15 Oni by Onamusha by.
Onamusha are still a bit of a problem, but I think overall they're not like now at this point in the game as well. They're not like you don't see one unit being played over everything else, right? Like still a lot of people play Onamusha because it's easy to play, but they're also easy to counter. I think Yanidao are still slightly too strong for where they are, but they're almost in where they need to be. And so this game, this season for me has been the most balanced it's been so far.
Yeah, but the problem of the fact that everyone will pick the same unit, it will come back when a unit is strong. Like it's all the time doing it, and it's a problem that other games don't have. You know, in League of Legends, if one champion is broken, at the end you have only one person that can pick it in the lobby. So it's maybe something that we'll have to think about, like putting a ratio of unit that you can pick in the lobby or something like this, because every meta we have the same trouble. The monk was a good example of it. If you have one monk to manage in the lobby, it's fine. But when there is 15, the weakness part of the unit that is to be few is not is not the case anymore because you have 15 in the lobby. So the unit become unmanageable last season. So they have maybe to fix a limit where you can pick I don't know, in same times maybe 5 times the unit or something like this. And it will be also protect from the problem to have too many range maybe. If you force the people to be on the category of unit in the same times, you know. So I don't know. For me, they have to watch about it because most of the big unbalanced issue that we have, it's because when a unit is stronger than the other, there is like billion in the lobby in the same time, and it makes the problem even huge, even bigger. So
let's talk about that thing we mentioned last night, Madshin, which is when we talk about win rates. And we had some of these like game-breaking units, like let's take the monks for example. If you have 15 monks on one side and 15 monks on the other, they have a 50% win rate that game, and it doesn't look like it's broken because you don't have that limitation on how many you can pick, and the stats, which people love to quote and love to misuse, will tell you that it's not a strong unit because it only wins 50% of its games, and we know for a fact that it's in absolutely every game.
Yeah, to give an anecdote, in Season 9, where the Axe Rider was completely broken and everyone was crying on it, we got a channel on the official Discord of Conqueror Blade for the Warlord to give some feedback to the CM, and so all the Warlord was telling them to nerf the Axe Rider because it was a big trouble. Millard say, okay, I will make the feedback to the dev team. They make the feedback to Booming, and Booming answer to Millard, okay, we look for the stats, and Axe Rider have a normal win rate. So we judge that the unit don't need to get nerfed. So during I think 2 months, the unit didn't get nerfed when it was obviously completely broken. And it was like, where is the point to watch the win rate of the siege of a unit when everyone is picking it? Where is the win rate relevant?
And then you saw the CBL that season and it was just Axe Raiders everywhere.
Yeah. It was so stupid.
Like it's not helping itself, right? It needs someone to take a look at that and just go, wait 1 second.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. So, I think that is a nice little discussion on balancing. Is there anything else that we think we should bring up regarding that? Because I think it's a pretty good opportunity. And anyone in chat, if they'd like to raise a comment about balance and anything they think should be discussed, now is a good time. Because I think this next one is relatively quick, which is the anti-cheating measures. How much cheating do we see in the game?
Me personally, not for a long time.
Like if it's not about game abusing some bug, I think on Europe we don't have any issue with it. But I know that on Frontier they have like all the time some trouble with it. In TW they have some every TW they have trouble with it. There is some people with like speed hacking and shit like this. And sometimes I see some video pop where Muscat can sound 7 grenades in same times. So I think that it's a trouble on Frontier, but it's not a trouble for us. So regarding this part,
typically on my games, I think the only thing we had was back in like early seasons where it was like the Immortal and Adachi's that just literally took no damage, and it wasn't that they were healing through it; they just genuinely took 0 damage, and that was like back in like pre-season. I think that's the only time we've ever had really like actual cheating cases.
It's like I never cross
Yeah.
it in lobby.
I'm trying to think of examples, and I have very few that I can think of on our servers anyway. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean it's not happening at low-level lobbies.
I get the
stuff
only
like
thing you
that.
could really say, I guess, was like arty duping and stuff like that, but that doesn't really impact the gameplay. That just impacts stuff outside of the game. When there was all those bombard duping and everything on, was it mainly on NA, wasn't it? Was it last season before?
Yeah, last season they were caught.
But I think it'd been going on for a while. My understanding of it.
But you know, this is more bug created by the games are
It's
cheat
more
coming
bug
out.
than cheating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is like something different to build. So you know, the fact that there is a part on the dev blog on the anti-cheat means that there is probably an issue somewhere, but this is not our trouble. But if they do, that means that on Frontier or maybe on the Chinese servers, they have a real problem with the cheat. Huh?
Because they said the endless surge of cheats through various methods such as self-developed encryption for game data transmission and client protection. But there are still some specifically gaps. But again, this may be more booming side, and they've just tweaked it for my games, like just translated it and put it in.
They 100% have translated it. So we've got what the booming side have said, and we can see the relationship between what the My Games one has said. Okay, the only comments were YOLO Cav, and I think YOLO Cav actually get brought up later on when we look at the Q&A with booming. So let's talk about the next one, which is future plans for Territory War. For this, they highlighted 4 key points. I think let's talk about each one briefly. So the first one is the game has a high learning curve and complex rules. I completely agree with that. I think if you're a Territory War and you're a new player, unless you join a house, you've got absolutely no clue what's happening. Any other
for
thoughts
sure.
that you
You
guys
join a house like Training Grounds that teaches you how to play the game.
have? No plugs. No plugs. No plugs.
Now for sure, TW, you have to get so many units. You have to understand the tempo of the game. You have to understand the commitment that you need to do, and you have to understand that this mod is not built to get fun, because you have to commit and suicide and to play 1 minute and wait 30.
I think it is down to the
This is
houses as well, though, right? Because a lot of houses will just take in new players. Like, okay, well, you can just intercept for us, or you spawn in, you suicide, and then you let someone else come in. I think part of that is down to the houses, but there is definitely a lot to learn, right? Because realistically, you look at it, you could start the game within like 3 days. You can have imp shields and imp pikes and palace guards. Within 3 days, now you can get that, and that is a decent loadout for Territory Wars for a new player. But knowing how to use that, knowing where you can use that, what houses you can join that can teach you how to use it properly, that is an issue.
The thing is they talk like about after in the post. It's like TW have for me some big trouble with the design of it. So the fact that you have mastering and that you have people not playing during the other are playing, and also there is interception. And for an example, it was more back in the age, but you know when I joined the game in season 6 and 7, the beginner in the house was doing the interception, and they wasn't even playing the game. So this is, you know, a big issue when you have your new player coming to TW mod, and they don't even really like go in the battle and fight. So of course it's not a fun experience to just be in 1v1 with someone and make him lose time. So I think there is a lot of reward that they have to do on TW. Because the first part of the point is more about the reward and the cost of it. And of course, they should fix something with the bronze, because it's like so stupid. It's pretty useless in the game except for the crafting, and it's just a limit for the player for nothing, you know. Actually, for the top player, like for all the players that play long season and that have win a lot of season and triumph, we have infinite bronze. And for the beginner, because I talk with a lot of them, they literally can play the game towards the bronze, because you can run out of bronze super fast. And if you do TW, you are like, after 3 TW, if you are new on the game, you have no bronze anymore and you can't repair your unit. So the bronze are a limit in game that they should remove, and that also fucked that like get some trouble in the TW. And for me, the biggest trouble of the TW is the system part, and that's why they talk about it later. They say that the next participation reason in the territory war itself is a trouble. Like there is too many people outside during the field battle during the battle, and too many people
definitely
that
interesting
are
what they're going
just
to do with that.
yeah. And this is a feedback that we make to Millard, like the French community make it a lot in the Warlord channel. I don't know for the rest, to be honest. But we asked to change the system of the TW to get on 20 against 20 in the city. You lock your 20 in, and after you have some respawn timer, and you have 5 guys mustering. So you still have the idea of getting a mustering in the battle. but you have cooldown, so you will respawn, and your battle is limit, and you can limit the RT also. Because actually, for me, one of the biggest trouble in the TW is the RT plus the mustering. So you have to fix the two things.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I agree with locked numbers on a fight though, because defenders will always have a huge advantage. It's like, how do you decide it? Do you give defenders 20 but attackers 30? Like, because defenders will always have an advantage because of how the maps are designed.
I'm not sure. Like, if you're in 15 vs 15 temple, if you make one wipe, you get a point. So at the end, it's not. But
you say that, but defenders, just because of the map design, will always have an advantage, right? Because they always have close supplies, they always have. There's just the advantage of the map design itself. You normally have to push through small chokes or climb or do something. So if you limit the number of players to be even on both sides, I feel like just no team would ever take a map against like balanced teams.
I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't have to be limited to say 15 on 15. It could be that you put as many players as you want into it, but once the match starts, that's it. You can't add any more.
That could be a potential.
Yeah, but like for me, less you are, better it is, because you will play more, and also more city will be under attack. Because basically, there is like 100 city we say in the game, if we are like 1,000 and we say 10 people by city, every city will get fight. You know, so. Actually, on the game, most of the city are not fight because we are not enough for the map overall. And
that might change with EU2 coming over though. I still don't think it'll be enough, but it depends on how many regions they open. But yeah, I get your point.
Because you know, some house put like 60 people in one roster to attack one city. This is like retardless, but they have no choice. Because otherwise, since they play with big tempo of suicide, you will get out of mastering, maybe with some interception and people that have trouble on the pass because with the Russian or something like this. So at the end, you have to be 60 in your red to attack, and this is retard because every people will play like 1 minute in the battle, not more. And at the end, the 60 people can be like attacking three cities different with the system of 20. So you have a more city attack, more content everywhere, and more balanced battle. And after, if it's the map the trouble, then fix the map, give more RT to the attackers. You know, you can make some adjustments. But for me, you have to keep in mind also that they want the game to be realistic, and take a city in reality during the war was something really tough. So that's probably why the map are that much defense side, and they don't touch it so much. You know, the Engraved City during I think season 3 to season 8, if you are against a good raid, it was probably untakeable, and it was on purpose if they don't fix it for me. It's because they want the game to be hard.
I think that limiting the numbers just is not going to be healthy, I think there's a couple of options. I mean, Lowen's put it in chat, right? Bring back the line system, so cities have multiple lines you have to defend. That means there'll be more content across the map because you have to defend multiple lines. You can't stack 61 city. But I think, for me personally, one of the biggest changes they could do is add a small cooldown to respawn in. So that people can't instantly respawn if someone dies. Give it a 5-second cooldown. Because then if you do a big wipe, whether you're an attacker or defender, if you do a big wipe, you can punish more from that. Whereas at the moment, you can do a big wipe, you know there'll be 15 people instantly back in the fight straight away afterwards.
Maybe that adds on to kind of what Vet suggested as well, which is that attackers and defenders come in waves. So like, respawners will only respawn at the 30-second mark. So every 30 seconds, anyone that's queued up will then spawn in at the same time.
Looking at it as well, yeah. But I think that doing something like that would still be better than putting limits on, because again, you've got to look at it from multiple sides, right? For a top level house, sure, you could make a raid of 20 people that can probably beat a lot of other people. But when you're looking at like some of the smaller houses that just have numbers, they need to be able to benefit from those numbers, right? Because that's the benefit to the small houses with loads of numbers. That, in theory. Obviously, in practice, the big houses have more numbers than the small houses most of the time, but that's kind of the way they look at trying balancing it.
Like with the limit player system, you will have the benefit from the fact that you can attack more city if you are more in the house.
Or maybe an option is the higher level that you get your house, the less people you can have in the house, because that then punishes these big houses that try and have 300 people in their alliance. Maybe once you get to like level 5, you have 10 people less in the house, but you have to be a certain level to attack capitals. Maybe something like that could be an interesting option.
Because for me, with the when I developed the 20 people system, I also want to loot to fight against the abuse, soulblock and everything like this.
Yeah.
And the fact that if you have to register 20 people to lock the to start the battle on the city, you probably avoid the fact that people attack with one guy to slot block, for example. And this is kind of thing that if you want to rework the TW, you have to know that actually the abuse is a part of it. Like, most of the
100%.
season are fight with abuse. So you have for me to remove interception by a way, and you have to be sure that you will not get any new abuse with the new system. So you have to find an abuse where people are not as free as we are now, because when the dev build up the TW, they want the player to be free. Attack where you want, at number that you want, so you have to macro your army, dispatch your player at the good spot, and like they want the thing to be the most strategic possible. But the thing is, like, more you let the player free, more possible abuse you get, and at the end, after 16 season of this, I think we are at the end of what we can do, because
I just think that limiting the people in the city is just, it could be a very toxic system, because then you'll go back to what we've had in the past, where houses will get loads of alt accounts to come into the house to do more thief quests, to get more prestige, because basically whoever gets the first attack is guaranteed that city, essentially, because it's going to be almost impossible for, at least in top houses, because even if you're looking at like some of the best raids in the server, it's going to be almost impossible to take a city if you're just 20 versus 20, because there's such a huge advantage for defenders.
I don't know.
On most of the maps, I think there is, because like, how are you going to climb the walls without losing people?
Okay.
How are you going to push through breaches without losing people? It's going to come down to arty. Defenders have a massive advantage on arty.
but look, Temple. Try to think like out of the actual TW. If you limit the RT, for example, the defense are way weaker. If you limit the RT, the defense cannot kill the tower again and again and again. So
for sure, but then you start to push into a tiny choke where the defenders can build arty to counter it, or can force you into other chokes.
The map that I put in the Nation Cup, with the city of Entadulu, you see when you play it in Siege, in 15v15, she is attackable when you have the tower and when you have everything. And this is the same for most of the map, I think, except the Ungrevija one, with probably the one that you have to rework a bit. But I think the other one, when you have tower, it's it's pretty fair to attack. You have to win you just have to win a team fight, and then everyone can win. And the idea of it is also, if you build a little house of 20 people, you can fight every raid on the server. And so we have a trouble on CB that people want to play in little house. This is the reality of the game. There is so many little house in Borderlands since Age that are like literally doing nothing, because actually the system is zerging and they do little house. So at this moment they will have a job. If you have a little house of 15 people, you can send them on a raid and they will be able to take the city if they are better.
Yeah, but for me,
probably not
maybe this is a bit harsh for me, but I don't think that should be in the game, because for me, Territory Wars is the most competitive aspect of the game, that we shouldn't be trying to aim it for small houses to be able to do stuff with like 15 players in. To me personally, I think if they want to get villages, sure, they can do villages, but for cities, I feel like you should be, like, for Territory Wars, you should be looking for the most competitive side of the game outside of tournaments, and if you're trying to compete in there and get land, you should be trying to do the best you can to build the strongest house you can. That's the way I see it personally, which may be wrong, other people may not agree on it, but I just feel that trying to cater to small houses, because I've had this argument before, right? You mentioned the Warlord chat before. I've had arguments in there with small houses before, where they're going, oh, but we can't take multiple cities, so all the big houses take them. I was like, well, then you need to take more players, and you need to train up, you need to get better, you need to improve to be able to take these cities. Like, the game shouldn't be catering to the casual player in Territory Wars, is my personal opinion.
I'm going to put in a suggestion that kind of slots in between the two of you. I agree with Madshin. If you're strong enough to take somewhere, you should be able to take it. And if the thing that is stopping you from taking it is the fact that you're a house of 20 and you're attacking a house of 60, and all they do is intercept you outside, so you can't muster in, that is not very satisfying to play.
I agree, interceptions should be taken out of the game, 100%. There should be a way to counter that. Maybe not taken out, but there should be a way to counter it in some way. Like you had the old field camp where you could stack inside it, things like that. Like maybe there is a way where you can build a field camp that you can hide inside of again, but if they take that field camp, they can intercept you, things like that. So you can then look at it where you can build a field camp to counter them intercepting, but if they kill that, you can then be intercepted again. Stuff like that. So maybe there's some kind of way of counterplaying it. But I also like the idea of bringing back the line system, like Leon said, to be fair, because you may not be aware, but that's how it was back in Season 1 and 2. I think it was both seasons, where every city was 2 lines, every fort was 3 lines, and if you lost one of those lines, you lost that thing. And it was even with Conqueror City, the first season had 2 lines on it. So we had to have 2 raids in there to defend Conqueror City. If we got unlucky, they baited our main raid in one and then attacked the second raid with the other, we could have lost it. And that adds more competition as well, because it means that to be honest, I actually would quite like the idea of having multiple lines back for capitals, because I think that's actually a very good way of doing it, because firstly, you won't have a house or an alliance that stacks 60 people of their best players in there that's almost untakeable, because capitals are really hard to take. It means that your alliance has to have 2 competent, stable raids that can defend against the best raids in the server, and it would add a much better way of being able to snipe those capitals.
Yeah, and as Luan described, it was 5D chess. Like you've got to try and match a raid up with someone else,
Yeah.
so that you can actually align it. Were you able to, if you say started the attack with one raid on line 1, were you then able to swap it to line 2 and then?
You couldn't
fight?
swap that raid, but what you could do is you could basically. So where you joined, there was just 2 options to join line 1 and line 2, right? So you could choose which line to join, and then you had there was always the mind games of trying to bait the enemy team into joining the one where your bad raid was or where your weaker raid was, and then trying to bait their weaker raid into another one. And there were times like forts and cities were lost because again, if you're thinking 3 lines on a fort, that means you need to have like 120 people sat on that fort if you want to defend it if it gets seriously attacked.
Yeah. That sounds mad.
And so it
but
means
the game is not equipped for that anymore.
What's the thing?
We don't have the players.
Maybe with the server merge now, maybe we do. And it would start. But even if we don't, right? Maybe not 3 lines, but 2 lines on some key areas like capitals, and maybe on a couple of cities in each region, means that you can't have one alliance holding like 10 fiefs because you'd have to have 2 raids on one city potentially.
Yeah.
The thing is that this system, like the TW system that we get right now, was good when we was lot on the game, and even with the merge, we will not be close to what we was in season 6 and 7, because overall we lose like 19% of the player base in TW, because no one played the TW anymore. Like from E2, you will get probably like 2 house out of the one that wanna already switch, so it will be like 5 stack house of a friended. The rest is borderland house of 10. No? But don't expect that getting E2 will make TW active. It will probably not change a lot. The thing is like, and me, it's where I don't want to be delusional. When you want to build a raid of 60 people, you will, if you want to make a top raid, there will be no other top raid of 60 people on the server. And that's what happened with Origin when they merged, like when they get all the tournament player in one raid. At the end, it was impossible to make another raid of 60 that can face them. That's why if you go on 20 people, it will be like the tournament team. You can have like probably 4 or 5 top 20 that can face each other. Same for the second raid.
I just don't think that limiting it is a healthy thing for the game personally. I understand your point, and I respect what you're trying to do, but I don't think that's a healthy thing for the game to limit who can join on both sides. I think that there's some kind of happy medium you can get between the two, but I just think that you're potentially forcing players into bad situations or making it almost impossible to take cities. I think the line system could potentially work in like capitals. I think that honestly I can see it working for capitals, because then you can't have a 60-man stack raid of the best players, right? Because then your second raid would be useless and the other enemy could take it off you with the lines, right? So I would actually quite like to see the lines come back for capitals personally, thinking about it now. But I just think limiting who you can actually have in the fight, it's a dangerous game to go down, I think.
I don't think so.
I think it could be abused personally.
If you balance the RT, like give 2 RT to the attacker, 1 to the defense, if you balance the map that are maybe not built for, and you adapt it, and you put the right time of on respawner, it will just be more strategic, more interesting. Like it will be just, for me, a better version of TW, because you still you keep the thing that you have infinite units. So like when you respawn, you get back all your units. And so this is not like the tournament, it's not a 15 against 15 like in tournament, where we look a lot about the units. Here you don't look about the units, so you don't look about the trade, but you look about like how to kill the enemy to get the time to cap a point. For me it would be way better, and also it will fit more to the number of players we got and to how the game is built. Because actually, when Legacy is a good example of it, Temple, when you start to gather the good players, they all finish in the same alliance, because I will take the Vazek case, because for me it's interesting. Vazek don't want to play in a raid with bad player, so he stop playing TW, and now he will join Legacy because he want to play with good player. Otherwise, the TW experience is like frustrating for him to see some people doing shit when he is trying to cancel a supplier or things like this. And this you can understand.
I think it depends on the mentality though, right? Because if you... I think because Vasek's an interesting case. Because I think when he stopped playing Territory Wars, because when Eden was still, or whatever house it was at the time, was still try-harding to win the season, right? So their mentality was, we want to be try-harding, we want to be taking these good fights, and that's where those issues. Whereas if you go into it where you think, right, well, this house, I know there's going to be issues in the house, they're not painting it to be all the top players in one raid, that might not be an issue. Because Vasek was looking to potentially join my house at the start of the season to train up new players with me, and I think it just depends on your mentality going into it, right? Because you look at it with even sieges and territory wars and stuff, there are players that will hard rage in sieges because of how badly people are playing, because they're expecting them to play like territory wars or like tournament veterans. And I think it's a massive difference in just the mentality of when you play this game. If you're going into it expecting people to play as top level players, you're going to have issues when they don't. Whereas if you're going into it expecting them to be a random siege, you don't really worry about it. You just focus on yourself and playing and farming. So I think it definitely just depends on how the raid and the house is set up. That can massively impact that.
Naturally, yeah. I'd be surprised if not every veteran player in this game hasn't at some point said, "Oh, I'd love to form a 20-man house with my mates, and we'll defend one town throughout the whole season, and that'll be our home." I'd be very surprised if a lot of players haven't thought like that. But they all recognise that it's not possible. Like, how many houses do we see at the start of the season have 20 players online for TW? They try and hack it out, and then by the end of it, they've all merged into a bigger house just because it's what they have to do to hold land. And they end up having a worse experience. Some of them quit. Eventually, the numbers get diluted. And
yeah, I mean, you look at houses like, for example, the Rohirrim house that was trying to do something. As they had like a good core of players that ended up just merging to the houses.
Fantastic community, but they then realised they couldn't compete when a 200 stack of players came in their direction. They naturally can't compete.
Exactly.
But if you had a limited load-in system, they could compete. They'd be able to hold their hometown or whatever they wanted. And if they're strong enough to take it and they're strong enough to hold it, they should be able to. And it shouldn't be discouraged in that way. So I think it's a delicate one, and it's very divisive, clearly. But we've talked about it a fair amount, and I think we should move on to some of the other parts of the game.
Just to finish, like what the developer are saying is like they want so the individual gameplay in the TW being better, and more people involved during the battle. So that will probably mean that they want to carry something more than what I think, where more people play the game and less people are waiting. Because depending of the raid, sometimes you play like 3 minutes to wait 20 minutes. It's not, and that's what they say, lack of fun gaming experience. It's literally what you feel. Like when you do like 4 enter in the TW of 3 minutes, you are lacking of fun gaming experience. And this is what the dev also noticed. So that means they would change something to make the people more involved during the battle. And this is something that I wish. Maybe not the dream of Temple, so maybe Temple will be sad, but this is something where the dev are looking.
Yeah, I definitely think there's something you can do. I just think that limiting the players, I just don't think, me personally, is the right way to go. Maybe it will be. Maybe that is how they do it, but yeah. I personally just don't agree with it. But.
Mm-hmm. I think it'd be interesting, and I think the lines is potentially something that would very much shake the game up, and it shake up the way that the strong, numerous member alliances would have to play the game.
I also think just one final point on that, just to talk from the small houses perspective. So, I agree with not adding lines to every city, but adding lines to capitals also means that end of the season you can't have these main alliances. For example, Origin last season, or for even the likes of, let's say, with GB, taking an entire region at the end of the season for rewards. Because if you have, like with the capitals with multiple lines, people would have to stick 2 raids there and have 3, maybe 4 raids that can go and hold a couple of other cities and stuff. So it also makes it more balanced for the smaller houses and smaller players as well for end of season rewards. But that's just another point I want to make on the lines for capitals at least. But yeah, we can go to the next one.
The problem with the line, you don't fix the abuse possible. You don't fix the slot block, you don't fix the 5th raid, you don't fix all these things. So at the end you will have the same trouble. I mean, we have to keep in mind that why people run away of TW is because of the abuse, most of them. So you have to for me, you have to create a new system where you bring the abuse far away from the mod, and that's why you have to control more how the player flew. So let's see what they will do.
Yeah. I think they could quite easily fix the problem where people feel like they get intercepted or territory war. I think that's a very easy one. Field camp introduction, or let's say there's a muster point outside the fief. If you're stood in that, you can't be ganked. Like that would instantly fix it. Because I think interception has a part outside of territory war, which is where you go and you attack someone that's gathering resources, or you stop someone delivering fief quests, that kind of stuff. But I think that's for another time. The next point is the power development cycle in territory war is long. I don't 100% know what they mean by that. Is that the way the season works, where you have blue lock, purple lock, and then no lock? Is that what they mean with that? What do you guys think?
I'm not sure. Power
it's
development
not
cycle
about
in territory wars is long.
For me, it's more about like the fact that they don't bring something new to DW. Like we don't have new map and new city since season 5.
Yeah.
So that means that everything when they want to build up a new map and to build up new city, new fort and new capital, it takes a lot of time. And maybe for not enough players they judge. That's probably why they don't do since season 5. Also same for the rework. Reworking the TW is probably a big work to do. So that's probably why they don't work on it since a long time. Maybe it will be in the future because they know that it's a good way to gather players and to. That's the first step that they say. It's like TW are a good place to gather people and to make friendship and thing. And this is important for the game life. And the good proof of it is like most of the players that play long on the game, it's because they was in an house in TW and they get some friends and they stay on the game. So they probably know that if they want the game to be more attractive in long term for new player and for a big community, you have to make TW better. But the problem is like it's a big amount of work and time. And actually, I think Miller tell me that it was less than 5% of players that play TW on the
it was something like that, yeah. I was talking to Sims about it and they said something similar. It was like 90 to 95% of the population don't play Territory Wars.
So imagine make that much work for like 5% of population, and it's even worse on Frontier, because now we have to get in mind that Conqueror's Blade is not a TW game. It's more a game like League of Legends where people connect, start a game, like a MOBA, and leave. And and they do like 5 games in the week, and this is the end for them. So it's pretty hard for the dev to have to decide in, did I want to invest from a player that play the most but are few, or for the big part of the casu that are way more and I want them to stay a bit longer in the game. So that's probably why they say that the development system is pretty long and why they don't want to invest much in it.
Yeah, I mean, it goes on to the next point there of what Lauren's talking about in chat as well, is like the rewards as well that you get from Territory Wars is just that. I think that's why a lot of new players don't play it, because you can spend all your time, take a city, and you'll get like 500 silver for it, and you may lose so much bronze for it, because like the next point we're going to go on to, the cost of unit kits and replenishing unit kits exceeds the rewards. Like there is no benefit to Territory Wars really apart from good fights, and that's why I think most veterans play it, because it is some of the best fights you'll get in the game, some of the best content you get outside of tournaments, and so that's why a lot of people play it, because it is just so much fun as a veteran. That I love Territory Wars for that reason. You can get some really good fights in there. You can get some complete slot blocks and just really bad fights, but that comes with the territory as well. But that I think is why most veterans play it, is because of that content. But it's just not rewarding. End of season rewards as well are a joke. Like there should be more focus on the rewards you get from playing this, because they've increased the rewards for like every other mode, right? Like you look at a lot of the drops and things you get now from modes. You look at some of the drops you get from the new events and everything. Bring some of that stuff to Territory Wars.
I mean, if you're an house where you get the 100 Triumph, the rewards are good. But the problem is like it's not the case for big part of people that doing TW. They get like the little house get maybe 100 Triumph at the end of the season. That's you can't even buy an epic shame. So yeah, it's something that they have to look for, because the first step of most of the players is to go buy a little house into the TW. So if they do one season, they lose all the bronze and they get nothing. They will not do another season to go in bigger house and get bigger reward. Because I think the reward, when you are Origin last season or
we had max
it's
with,
okay
with it, so it was 1,000, and then you get more for titles, obviously. So I think
and
me
I
personally,
think this reward was fine.
Yeah, I mean, that, at the end of the season, sure, that's fine. But that was also, we had to hold 2 capitals, 4 forts, like 3 cities for that as well. And you think no house realistically is going to do that?
Yeah.
Yep. The cost is currently way too high.
And also, just on another topic, right? Why are unit kits even a thing in this game? Like, genuinely, why is that even a thing in the game? If especially if we're talking about they want to focus on around the siege gameplay and getting people just queuing up and doing that, what other game do you have where what you play in like the matchmaking gets damaged? It's just, I think honestly they've just left it there because bronze is kind of irrelevant in this game and they needed something to make you spend it. Otherwise I think they would have got rid of the unit kits a while ago, because what other reason is there, right? You look at any other matchmaking game, look at Call of Duty, look at League of Legends, like any of these games where you play match-made like siege games essentially, there's no currency that you've got to like repair your, like you don't have to repair your heroes after each game or your champions after each game in League. What is the purpose for it?
Yes, I totally agree. The base reason was it was a way to balance the game. If the cav cost a lot, you will not play too many cav, and so you will have less cav in the lobby and in the TW. The reality is like people just want to play the unit that make them fun and make them have good stats. So at the end, it not stop the people, and some people are ready to get poor just to play the good unit in Siege. So no, this is completely irrelevant, and they need to remove it. The problem, I think, is they're stuck because they have balanced the bronze system with the stuff system. Because actually, if you remove the fact that we have to repair the unit, some veterans will get so many bronze that they can craft close to infinite item. Like you can shred so many.
Yeah, I guess that is the one use of bronze, isn't it? Really, is buying the horse gear and then smelting it down for gear. But
which is an arduous process. And no fun at all.
They need to rework the bronze and to remove it from unit for sure.
So yeah, the people would often, and people still do, is they say, "Oh, are you saving your kits for next game?" Or trying to save unit kits by not committing your units in sieges. But in territory war, it's the kind of like acknowledgement. This is the time when you are risking, in quotation marks, your units. You're risking the kits because it's there needs to be risk reward, right? And if there's only reward, no risk, a lot of the fun does get diminished by it. Because you then can have everyone just go, "Oh, I don't care. I'm just going to throw this away. It means nothing." As opposed to, "Oh no, this is something I'm actually committing towards. I want it to go well. I don't want to lose this town that we have because then I'm about to lose 15% of all my unit kits, and that's going to cost me 300,000 bronze if I'm lucky. If it's not like 1.2 million in some cases." So there's that side as well. I think there needs to be some cost of in-game currency to actually take part in these things and to lose. There has to be something on the line. The Triumph rewards are trash, frankly. They're really, really low. The incentive for playing in the final region of the season is non-existent compared to side capitals or side regions. So you end up with people owning an entire region, which just doesn't work.
I think it was worse because it was Conqueror City, right? So every fief counted towards the capital. Because normally you don't have that. Sometimes you'll have houses will take a side capital and then go main. But you don't normally have houses taking entire side region and main region in a normal season, right? There have been in some of the less competed seasons, but typically, like even you look at the season before this, the Daicheng one, right? Origin just took all of the main region basically. We didn't have any, and it wasn't even all of it. It was like 5 or 6 cities. So I think the last war we took quite a bit. I don't remember, to be perfectly honest with you. But we didn't have loads of land in the side cap, we didn't go to the borderlands, things like that. One thing I would say on the bronze cost is I think it also depends on what your house does, because the houses that intercept a lot will use more bronze. So going back to like pre-season in Were Rabbits, I remember there was one war for the first Conqueror City where I spent like 3 million bronze in one war because I was intercepting that much. I think I intercepted like 20 times during the war or something like that. I spent so much fucking bronze. And I think because our communities, especially on the higher end I'm looking at now with like the likes of Origin and stuff, we agreed no more intercepting. That also helps with that, because it means that you're not having all of your guys constantly intercepting, which costs a hell of a lot more bronze than it does just to have like 1 or 2 fights during the war, because you get into the queue. Also, thanks.
Did you remember the season 6? Season 6 where you have to rebuild. There was so many interception everywhere to block the people to rebuild. Well, this season cost maybe like 5 million bronze if you do it like full tryhard. It was something.
Yeah, that was a tough season.
But it was fun.
And some people, in chat are saying as
fun.
well. So one of the reasons as well people are saying in chat is that the bronze being on unit kits is because it forces you to buy premium. Because without premium, you don't get as much bronze. That's what they're saying. So it's a marketing thing, which could be a point, but it's also not needed with the amount of skins, the things they brought in that can do it.
I just want to answer to Luan. You know, the season 6, like when I was playing it, I was like, it's so stupid. They had the slow. There is zero construction, so it's PV. Like we was complaining, and like no, after some season back, I'm like happy to get a season that was different than other. You know, I have some good memories of it when we try to escort everyone to give the material to rebuild the city. When we was protecting the city to avoid the fact that other house rebuild it. So it was really an interesting season because it was different, and that's maybe what we are missing in TW. It's like completely rule changing season from season, the way that you have to win. You know. Maybe.
Yeah, I think and that's why I like that season in one regard, because again it was different, and it's something we spoke about on the podcast before with myself and Drayton. It's like I would love for them to bring in a system where you could upgrade your city as you leveled up, so you can build different buildings that give you different buffs for it and things like that, because then it's something new to the game that would also encourage houses to focus on leveling things up rather than just taking the entire map, and that would allow more
to protect some city more than other.
Yeah, exactly.
Because except the fort that you keep, because it's like too easy to defend at Anyang, for example. Like it's so easy to defend the fort, so you protect them, but it's not because you have upgraded the city, it's more because it's broken and you can let the trash head in it.
Yeah.
So that brings us on to the last point, which is accumulation of resources yields no benefits. Like doing thief quests in that snowy season of season 6 meant something. And not only did it mean something, you got really nice return as the player handing it in when you did it. For example, you got 600 honor for handing in that of some of the 5-star quests as a base level, which is a phenomenal amount of sieges. Actually, it's like 3 sieges worth.
They were fairly easy to do the quests as well, right?
Very, very easy. And it's another thing that this will lead us on to, is there's almost no incentive now to do open world stuff other than territory war. There's no incentive for it. The rewards from doing thief quests are poor. The amount of resources you get from nodes are pretty rubbish. There's no incentive now to essentially mine or gather resources from anything less than blue, because green is trash and grey is trash. But there's no quests demanding the material from green or grey, so therefore people just don't use it, and you end up with this incredibly stagnant environment outside the cities that doesn't change for 12 hours at a time. And if you then have it so that it's constantly ticking over and it's constantly changing because people are like, right, I desperately need green copper right now because that's what the rebuild quest is demanding, you end up with none of it on the map, and the economy of the game ticks over more. People are investing in that side, and just money turns over as well, because currently the economy in the game is trash as well.
Yeah, I mean, one benefit to it was that you would get the exotics, right, and you would get the gems that you could then donate, that was the thing. But someone said in chat, you don't even get any gems now. I mean, there's a couple of points from chat here. So Boyle's Law just said he's got over 2,000 hours in the game. He don't think he's ever left the city to do anything open world.
There's no incentive to do it. The incentive to do it is
the open world is completely flop now. Even the PvE part, it's like you have no reason to leave a city except to attack another city in the game. So again, I think it's so much big work because they have to rework every system, because the resource system is bad, because it's a lot of time, not fun, waste of money, and not even worse. So I mean, because even if it was worse, it's not something fun that you want to do as player. I don't want to spend 1 hour walking on the map waiting for mine to change to craft 2 RT,
Yeah, I personally just buy it from the markets now, because I just don't want to have to go around and trying to collect it. Because you'll have players that will sit there while they're working from home with timers to go to certain resource nodes to get the resource. I'm just like, no, that's just too much work. I would love them to bring back the system where you could gather from mines once they're empty, but at a reduced yield, right? Because that means that anyone could just go and farm and get some resources when they need to.
Yeah.
But it also costs you for it. Another point raised from chat as well, just to link the open world into what we were discussing before, with the whole limit on players joining the city, have it so that you can build a field camp, and let's say the more resources you put into it, the higher level it gets, the more people you can put into that city.
Yeah, we've had the discussion regarding the time between territory wars contributing to the territory war experience. That's something we've touched upon before, and it's a subject that I know a lot of people will just not enjoy. A lot of people do not like the idea of logging on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday to then actually contribute towards their war on Tuesday, and then continuing that through to the next war on Saturday. A lot of people don't want to do it. And is that because it feels like the system would be unrewarding, the system would be boring to do, as well as a waste of time? Because when we think about Season 6, we think about the I can't remember what the system was called, but you would donate materials, and if you donated more than anyone else, you got first attack.
Yeah.
And you saw people min-maxing the way they were doing that, and there was a lot of strategy and a lot of spreadsheeting went into that. And some people loved it, and it's accepting. But I tell you what, the game was hella active right then.
Yeah. For me, it was the best season.
That's what the game needs. The game needs something to make you be active, and also you feel like being active is worth doing.
Yeah, I mean, it was even just
it
even the
makes the
intercepting
open
was
world
fun though.
strong because you have to recall the resource. You have to snipe the mine. You have to protect the mine for your other player. You have to protect the city. Like it make the open world really active, and it was interesting. It was the only season when I found the open world was useful.
Yeah, there is
it made
to no one outside in the open world now.
It made even intercepting fun. Like I had points where there was someone on my friends list, but he was on an enemy house, and we intercepted him so much he just kept going offline all the time. Like he literally, I would just go, oh, he's offline again. Oh, he's back online. He's going to try and come in, get ready to the spot he went offline from because he was Alt F4ing to try and get out. And we intercepted him so many times. He went, fuck you guys, I'm going now. I'm going to just log off the game for a couple of hours. And he came back like 3 hours later because he was getting intercepted so much. And while that's a bit toxic, it was also really fun to have those kind of interactions where you can you could just deny people from doing the quests.
With Aurora, at this moment, we set a rotation of players to get people during the night to protect the city, to intercept the run.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
And it wasn't
we
just
got
that,
a
you also had
GDUP
to
where
go.
we said people register.
Yeah, but it wasn't even that though. It was also you go, okay guys, we're all going to log on at this time to do our quest so they can't intercept us. And you'd have like 60, 70 people logging on at the same time just to go and hand in thief quests on like a random weekday.
Yeah, a big train of players.
Yeah, and you just had like 50, it was like a territory war but on a non-territory war day because you had all these players grouping up to play together to make sure we didn't get intercepted.
If Luon is still in the chat, and I told this example in a previous podcast, there was a fight where I think Chimera got intercepted. He was one of the leaders of Ingegna, and that fight went on for the full half an hour. There was 15 on 15, or maybe even 5 on 5, because it was limited at that point. In that fight for the full half an hour, neither side could win, and the game ended. That interception ended in a draw, and it was one of like 20 that were going on at the same time, all across Orgolia. It was so fun to be part of, and I reminisce about it being one of my favourite seasons as well. And players, when you talk to them about it, were like, yeah, that was good.
It was also one of the worst because of the snow, though.
Admittedly, winter ale
Yeah,
is garbage.
the slow was so stupid.
I still have stacks of 99 of each of them in my inventory.
just in case it comes back. But there's so many things that are kind of there. The mechanics for don't seem like they're far away. Like, surely they can tweak those relatively easily, add a module that benefits on their previously created resources, and it would be really fun. And I think we've mentioned it really, that there needs to be a reason to accumulate these resources, and currently there isn't one. Any other points before, on Territory Wars? I think we'll
one
move
last
on.
question is for you, just to get an opinion. What do you think about the days and the hour of TW? Get it the Saturday. Is like a good thing for you?
I know a lot of people would rather it be on a Sunday. I think I don't mind it being on a Saturday. But I know there's a lot of people like, I want to go out on a Saturday instead and do this, and Sunday's better. But then also people have work early on a Monday, right? So if you do it on Sunday, you'd also risk losing a lot of people because they can't stay up that late. I think they could maybe tweak days.
The Tuesday, people work the next day, but they still come, The Saturday.
True.
I think the Saturday is the contentious one.
For me, Sunday would be better.
I would potentially move it Sunday, Wednesday. I think you still need a space between Territory Wars.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I would also change it so that because realistically the Saturday current or Sunday proposed Territory War is more meaningful in terms of rewards. But the Tuesday one is where you then own the land for longer. So if you're going for I want to farm lots of resources attitude, the Tuesday war is your most important. And if you're going for I'm looking for payout at the end of the week, the weekend Territory War is more important. So there's that kind of two sides to it.
Yeah, like Macrosagina said in chat, if you do it on a Sunday, then you've got people that have work at 5 AM the next day. So it's like, he risks that as well. I mean, there are a lot of players that said they'd rather do Sunday instead. I don't know, to be honest with you. I think I'm fine with it because I'm just used to it now, because I've done it for 4 years now. Basically every Tuesday and Saturday, I know. But I think changing the days, there could be a lot of cries at the start, but everyone will get used to it eventually, right?
Me, when I was leading Aurora, the difference of number that I got the Thursday and the Saturday was crazy. I lose like 30% of player.
Every house did basically. Yeah.
And this is horrible when you go from 3 red to 2. So before, like the weekday, you can defend 3 city, and the weekend I have to drop 1. And I was like, and after the red have to retake 1 the weekdays.
I remember we used to strategize knowing that you had to do that. We knew that your Saturday was weaker, and we knew that I don't know what it is about because Aurora was predominantly French, right?
Yeah, you're only French. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was something about the French houses that always had worse attendance than Saturdays.
Yeah, people really go a lot at the bar in France the Saturday.
So you have it similar with the Spanish as well, though, right? So we had in Origin last season, there would be like on the one wall we'd have like 25 Spanish, on the other we'd have 60. It was the same thing there as well. One other interesting point I want to go, which was raised in chat as well, someone was talking about just previous things that used to happen. They were saying that they found it more interesting when you had to take the resource node before you attack the city. I think I'm two mentalities there, right? I think
I hated it.
I didn't like it because it was just a click war. I prefer the system now. Also, at the same time, it meant that territory was half an hour longer because you'd have to meet earlier to do this resource fight to then take a city afterwards. So it was kind of nice, but at the same time, I just didn't like the system overall, personally.
For me, you know what the system should do? You just have to make an open war on the interception battle, 15 vs 15, and the winner get the access to the city first.
Yeah,
that's
why
all.
not?
Like, so, you know, if you watch, like, to be realistically, there was some open battle, and there is no open battle in Conqueror Blade. That's pretty weird. So just make an open battles, 15 vs 15 between like next to the city. The one who wins take the city first. No click, nothing, just the fight.
I mean, that's basically what it was with the resource node, right? It was because that was a field camp battle, right, for most of it, and so you'd have to have that battle on the field camp basically to decide who then gets the first attack. I just didn't like it because it's a click war, because there were no defenders. It was just whoever got in most players the fastest would win the city, and I don't like that in general. It's the same way I don't like with capitals. I don't like that the cohorts are so unorganized. There's never any defenders of the capital because it's just whoever gets first attack wins it, and it's just that's one of my main issues with the game. It's just first attack wins the city, and most cities are defender favored. So I definitely think maybe there is an option of doing that. So maybe it's even like the what are they called? It's not the field camps. It's the other one, outposts. Maybe with outposts, that's the way of doing it. So you have to place an outpost for the city, because also that limits how many cities you can go for as well, right? But let's say 2 of you declare on a city, one of you has to build an outpost, or an outpost spawns, and you both have to fight in there. It randomly chooses who's the attacker and who's the defender, and you just have to fight on there. And whoever wins that then gets the first attack on the city. Something like that could be an interesting way of doing it.
Yeah.
For me, I do think that your activity in the week, I know I mentioned this, that people don't like it, but I feel like it's something that you can very quickly catch up on. That if you have a way of measuring activity in a location prior to a territory war, that dictates if you can declare on it or not. And
well,
for
you
this,
kind of have it with the pseudo house quest, right? So maybe you can target that at a city.
Yes, and let's say that the populace of the city want you to liberate them because you've been donating all this stuff. That's like the theme that you go for.
Yeah, or because you kill the rebels outside.
You kill the rebels, and every time you kill a rebel, you get 1 point towards a declaration. And that then bumps up how much prestige you have. Because let's say we keep the prestige system, but you get a bonus in places that you have been contributing towards over the week. So it doesn't punish people that are only logging in for territory war, because they can still attack elsewhere. But if you have honestly dedicated and put in a lot of time to support a fief, you are then rewarded for that time. Because that's always the thing that we're looking at, and it's the comments that are there, which is the revenue for taking part, or the rewards for taking part, are not matching the cost for taking part. So if we can buff it in some way, then I feel like it should be. And particularly when those mechanics already exist.
Oh my god, sorry, my Reapers have just absolutely annihilated on the siege, sorry.
Yeah, I've been watching. It's the first time you've actually popped off.
No, I know, I've done nothing, I've been distracted, but I just charged him outside the gate and just found like 60 unit kills and was like, what?
What do you think? What do you think, Mad? If let's say you hand in a fief quest and you get 1 point towards prestige.
Yeah, I don't like, because TW is a PvP system, so I want the PvP to be the key to get the advantage. So the defense is the advantage. So I want the guys who get the defense first, he reward because he wins something in PvP. So like,
okay,
if you have to do PvE, to make priority in PvP, for me it's weird, you know.
Yeah, but maybe it's like the house quest thing. So someone said in chat as well, the not necessarily the house quest, but maybe it's like not the house quest as in Thief quest, but house quest as in like the ones where you've got to win certain sieges and stuff. Maybe those you can pick a city that reputation then goes towards. So then you're getting favoured by. So when your house is active in sieges and winning these games, getting MVPs, doing the Thief quest is one of the other ones I know as well. But maybe these quests then give you reputation towards that city, which can buff you in the line of who gets to attack first. Because then it's encouraging people to play sieges as well, which I think is a big part of this game. Because if we just have, like what was happening on E1 before, where the only ones playing territory wars, they also weren't playing that many sieges. There was quite a few people that would just log on for territory wars and then go off again. And we need to encourage more people to play sieges.
But for me, there was a basic system that was good. It was that the first TW was city, it was a village, that is easy to take and not much side. So first, to get leadership, to get the prestige to attack the city, you have to get the village. And so you have one TW where we all fight for the village. It was like this some season ago, far away. And now there is city open at the start. And this I don't understand.
Yeah, but it's also, just to jump on that, it's slightly different. Like they normally do the first one as a drill mode because your houses can't get to level 3 to join an alliance or to make an alliance until the second territory war. But then by the second territory war, you're also high enough to take cities. So that's the reason behind it. So maybe they need to lower the level that you can join an alliance, because then you can make alliances from the start, take villages and have that village fight. Because I also think that the village fight should be a key aspect of the game as well. Because if you look at, I'm again talking from like Origin's point of view, from being at the top in main region, you don't care about the villages until the last war for rewards, basically.
Yeah.
And there should be more focus on that, or more focus on that.
Because it's probably the best way to know who deserves the city. Because it's like so pretty balanced to attack or to defend. So at least the winner who got it, get the city next to it. And that's that's the best way to get the priority. It's not about PvE. It's not about anything.
Yeah, definitely. I think there should be more. We should be encouraging more fights rather than having just houses. Again, you see it even abused at the moment, right? You'll see houses that at the start of the season will get on alt accounts just to play in the bot lobbies because they can win sieges and get MVP a lot easier to get their house quest, get their house challenges up higher and faster, so that they can try and get the more prestige. Because even you look at the last couple of seasons, I don't think any house had the maxed prestige.
It wasn't needed as well because there were so few players there. You basically, if you had the strongest raid, you won.
Yeah.
Java's just at a point, so he's just saying they removed the best system before Season 9. We had to take the sub-thieves of a thief to get the influence. It was the perfect system. Yeah, but Java, the only problem with that was the sub-thieves. It was just whoever clicked on it first got it. That's my problem with that. Yes, you could then fight over it, but it's also easy to defend it. But I think they should definitely do some kind of system, like we discussed, where it's like you have to have a fight before you can go for the city that determines who gets the city, and it's on, even if it's on a field map, whatever. But you have a 15-15 fight on whatever it is, whether it's an outpost, whether it's a sub thief. But there should be some way of doing it.
Yeah. Should we end territory war discussion there? I feel like we talked a load of stuff about that, and it's actually quite useful.
I think we can.
Okay. So the next one, which is of supreme interest to you both, the future of CBL.
Yeah, but the question is like, we read the one from Booming and from the dev, or the one from My Games?
We'll start with My Games, and then we'll go to Booming.
Yeah, so, okay. I mean, the My Games one is interesting, right? So they've said that CBL's been an event that people can participate together, it's the biggest stage, blah, 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 blah. We don't want to focus on it. Like, they've said that it's not their focus, they want to focus on the player tournaments. And to me, I read that as, which may be a bit biased, but I read that as, we can't be bothered to run it, we'll let you guys just do your own thing instead. And if they're going to go down that line, which I think it's fine that they want to do that, but then they need to give more support and better prizes to these fan-made tournaments.
I mean, for me, CB Rival should get the CBL reward. You know, the one that we don't get on EU. There is so many seasons that we don't get as reward on EU.
It's all just the skins, give the same all the borders, everything.
CB Rival as CBL, and we are done. No?
Yeah,
I just think that they're too scared to do that, to give control and give such good rewards to a fan-made tournament. Personally, I think that's probably where they would come from, right? Especially because there was issues with Rivals rewards this last season, wasn't there? So
yeah, but them they take the control of it. You know, for example, for the Nation Cup, I gather the ID of players, so the reward would be given directly by the ID. There is no abuse possible. So I think they already changed because of the last CB Rival.
I think they're all doing that.
So they can totally do it for the CB Rival.
It's fixing it.
I think there's definitely ways to do it. I don't know if I would want to do CBL as that, because I think that I like the format of CBL where it is a 16 team or 8 team, however they want to do it, tournament. It's not a league system, and I think that potentially how you do it is link it so that rivals, the top 8 teams, go into the CBL format and they do their own one. But yeah, I definitely think that they should give us those rewards. I mean, because there was even where we all got the emblem from the CBL in Season 5 and they took it off us, right? The portrait. They took it off us afterwards because they were just like, actually, we're going to take that off you because you didn't do the booming one, you were only in the My Games one. Because it was that green one with all the yellow like writing around the outside that we all got given it, and then they all took it away like a month later.
But you know, for me, like when you compare with the add-ons of booming about the CBL, is like in Europe you say, okay, we bet on the player, but for example, CBL is there because CB is like motivated since 5 seasons to give his time for free to give us a tournament. But we are lucky that we get someone that is keep fighting for it, because I'm not sure if CB stop one day, someone will take the following. Maybe you, Temple, but you know me, I see the time that the nation can take me. I will not organize 7 tournaments in the year. So,
yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, so I've always wanted to do a small 8v8 tournament like the NA one that I used to farm sovereigns from, because that was a good income for me, I'll be honest. I was earning like, what was it, 500 sovereigns every 2 weeks or something like that? I can't remember what it was. But I earned a lot of money from that with some of the plebs guys, but it was on at 2 AM. But I wanted to do like a more casual 8v8 tournament with like random units and stuff that wasn't a super try-hard one. It's just a bit of fun. Winners get like 200 solves each or something, or 500 solves, and it's just a bit of fun on like a bi-weekly basis. That's what I wanted to do. And I actually submitted that about a year ago, and I never got a response, because back then you had to submit it because every tournament had to be done through the tournament server. Now, because we have custom games, you can do it a lot easier, and I might start doing some of that. But again, like you said, it's still a lot of work to get it going and to keep it running. So I think we definitely need some more fan-made tournaments, but it's just getting the attraction to it as well, because you even see with Rivals, there's a lot of people that didn't even know about Rivals. When you think there's like thousands of players in there, but there's still people like, what's Rivals? Because you see it on like the official Discord when they do these posts, when they're talking about tournaments and Rivals, people are like, what is Rivals, guys? What is this thing? What is this Nation Cup that you guys have just announced about? Like, so I think if they get better marketing as well for these fan-made tournaments, we can definitely get a lot more going. And I think that people will be interested in setting it up themselves if there's more support there from My Games.
And as we spoke about with Super Kidovich, which we'll release shortly when I've finished it, the discussions we had there is using what's in the game, because there's no advertising when you actually load up the game, and there's plenty of opportunity to do it there.
Well, yeah,
so what we could have some of the amazing artwork and the graphics created for the Nations Cup. We just have it literally in the player's face as soon as they load up the game.
And again, they have that in booming.
You maybe don't remember, but season 7 for the first CBL, there was at the top of the screen a thing that you can open to watch the match in game.
Yeah, and even on booming, which again people probably won't know in the chat, but on booming they have like, it's like one of the F buttons, it's like F7 they have, which opens up a web page over the game, which has all, you could sign up for the CBL, you can see all the teams competing, you can see all the games, and they have all that marketing in game rather than being pinged on a Discord. And even with the Nations Cup, was it the Nations Cup or it might have been with Rivals, they were pinging in game like a world message and like an admin message being like, hey, this game's on now, you guys can go watch this. Or even with like the Twitch, I don't think they did it with the tournament, but it was like with Twitch drop stuff, they do it and say, hey, you should go watch these streamers because they're doing Twitch drops, and it came up in chat. More stuff like that will encourage more of the casual player base to then get interested in this, watch it, potentially want to join it. And so it's all about marketing and communication, which is what we spoke about in the podcast so many times. Just they need better communication, they need better marketing, which is what they're starting to do now, and the game is heading in a very good direction. Like the last 2 seasons, this game has been getting better and better and better with everything, like with the balancing, with the marketing, with how they're communicating with it's getting in a better place, but they still need to do more with it.
Yeah, completely agree. So we can mention what is going on in booming CBL. Oh, yeah, go Mad.
You should maybe read it, because I think you need the VPN to see it normally. I think most of the people didn't have it.
I'll read it out. So this is the one for the booming games. After 8 seasons, the CBL has been an event where Conqueror's Blade developers and players participate together. It's the biggest stage for players to showcase their tactics and represents the highest level of Conqueror's Blade tactical gameplay. During the CBL, we all cheer for the legendary teams and support those who dare to challenge them. No matter the result, we see everyone's passion for Conqueror's Blade and the CBL. Therefore, we will continue to hold the Conqueror's Blade League and strive to involve more players in the pursuit of the highest battlefield standards. At the same time, we also hope that apart from the Conqueror's Blade League, more players and organisations in the community can join us in organising various community tournaments. Official support includes, but is not limited to, promotional assistance and reward incentives. For more details, please refer to upcoming notice. Finally, as the pinnacle of Conqueror's Blade gameplay, we hope that everyone can participate in sharing tactics and skills so that more warlords can see and understand the fun in it. And then they do a little sneak peek.
One big difference as well, though, right, is that they get real money as a prize pool, whereas we get in-game currency.
Yes.
They do.
But this is for me. You see the POV, like the mindset of Booming is like they know that this competition drives a lot of players, a lot of viewers, and it's really important. They invest fully in it. They create a website for it where you do the ban, for example, on the website. You register. You have the full the full schedule of the match. You have everything. So if you're curious, just search CBL. The CBL website is like super good to look. And they give big reward with like 10k dollar, and the basic reward that we got in EU. So they really invest in this tournament. They want to keep it as the main event of the season, a bit like a World Cup, you know. So it's interesting to see that Booming want to build the game around the competition, and to see that it's like the most important part of the competition in the game, and see that My Games is like a bit scary to do it. So that's why I want to compare the two announcements, because that means that for Booming, competitive is important, and maybe less for My Games, and so that means the balance and all the future of the game will be probably all the time think about the competitive.
Yeah, it's a very different attitude, and I think given some of the discussions we had with the casters and with CB, the quality of community product is very high on the My Game server, and when the community then will have an opportunity to work with My Games for the CBL, I think the next one is going to be really, really good, because we've made a lot. Well, there's been a lot of mistakes on both sides, and if you learn from mistakes, you end up with something better. But if you don't communicate and you don't acknowledge mistakes and don't recognise what your history is, you continue to make the same mistakes again.
The question now, though, will we get another one? Because from that announcement that they've done, they've said that it is not their focus. They want to focus on the community ones.
Yeah, but just they say that there is still probably some coming, so we can expect one by year. But the thing is, I want to get a CBL like they got in Asia, with like it's long for 2 months. You have a loser bracket, you have a group stage.
But then for that though, we need more teams to enter it, right?
But even without more teams, I mean, I don't find it normal that Kebab finished last of the CBL, because first round they picked Pleb. Like, where is the?
I always seem to roll against the fucking Turkish teams in round 1, same as the Nations Cup.
Yeah, well, I think all good tournaments need a double elimination, don't you, Mad?
For sure.
What's with this country nations thing that only had 1 round? Like, what is that? Every tournament should have 2. With a loser bracket as well.
Look, for me, for example, I finished 3rd of the CBL after like one grassland against Pleb and 16 seconds on the field. So I was like, okay, I don't win against Pleb, but you know, in Scrim I do 6-0 against Surf. I maybe deserve a 2nd place, you know. So, but this is not even possible to contest for it. So this is like, you can do something really competitive and don't give the chance to the people to finish where they deserve. I think getting Kebab finish in the last of the CBL because they find Pleb is not normal. They don't get rewards. They don't get at least the place that they deserve. So
it's not even the rewards, right? It's the recognition as well. Like within the community, people go, "Oh, well, they lost round 1." Because the casual player won't look and think, actually they played against plebs who won it. They're like, oh, they lost round 1, they're not a good team. And even like, I'm being a bit cocky here, but even looking at the Nations Cup, UK shouldn't have deserved to be out in round 1, but we drew Turkey in round 1, so we got knocked out round 1.
Oh, we played rubbish. Oh,
yeah. The Nations Cup is just more because it's fun and like it would be
it's a fun tournament.
It has been very fun to watch so far. I've enjoyed it as a watcher.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow's games as well.
Some of the things
you would cast on Super Rival?
I don't know because I'm going to be streaming tomorrow. I don't know when I'm going to end, but if I'm free, I'll come and cast.
Okay.
Hey, don't use this opportunity now to talk about that stuff. We've got a topic to talk about.
Don't hesitate to come watch the match.
I mean, here's the point as well, right? Tax just said it would be nice if all of these tournaments weren't on Sundays, because all of the fan-made ones are on the weekend, right? Whereas you have CBL is on a weekday because they don't want to have to pay for their staff to work on the weekends, which is fair enough.
Yeah, and I do feel for the NA teams because they are people that cannot be working a 9 to 5 when those matches are on. It's just not possible.
Even the first match of the like during the week, the first match was at 6 a.m. for the French.
Oh.
So like you have to be there really early, and me as captain, I have to be there 1 hour before. So if you work, it's like already pretty tough.
Well, we had it. Was it not this CBL? It was the last one where they started the first match at 5, which meant that you had to be online at 4, which meant you had to do the bands at 3:30. My time this was, and I was like, it's like it was bad enough doing the Asian CBL. We did that, and I had to be on at 1 p.m. my time, and I was like, it's basically the same doing the CBL in our version. It shouldn't be that early. But you've got to look at it from their business side as well. It's going to cost them a lot more to run things on weekends or on late weekdays because they've got to pay for the staff more. But then, is that the price they should have to pay for wanting to do a tournament and promote their game?
Maybe.
No.
Okay. That's a great talk about CBL. I do think one will come, and I do think the next one will be good if it continues on its current trajectory.
Of course it'd be good, because plebs won't be there to dominate everyone.
Oh, shush. Good you.
Well,
Right.
16 seconds to get 3-0.
Win's a win. Win's a win.
Fair enough. I
Okay.
mean, you know, pleb deserved to win one, so I was fine. But no,
Yeah, well, here's the thing,
player
right?
in pleb,
We
like people like
waited.
Slide didn't deserve.
Yeah, we waited for 2 years for one. As soon as we announced plebs were disbanding, they did one. Origin, we've been dying for server merges. Origin wins so many. As soon as we announced Origin disbanding, they announced a server merge. Do my games just hate me? Is that what it is?
Yeah. I think it must be. Okay. The next topic: reward acquisition and gameplay exploration. With comments such as players feeling forced or imprisoned to play certain game modes. What do we think?
I agree and disagree with that, but I'll let Mad go first.
I'm super happy that they finally not be delusional that when they put a lot of reward in new mode and people play new mode, it's not because they lack new mode, it's because they feel pushed and forced to do it. Because you know, with Milord, and this is a talk that I have so many times with him, like sometimes they do some super shitty mod, like the T3 when he get released, I think it was like 5 seasons ago when it was a mod. And they say, oh, a lot of players play the mod, so that means people like T3. No, it was just because the reward was big, and we get forced to do in it because it was the only way to get the event reward.
The Silver Trials, it was more about you got more XP from that, so you could level faster at the start of the season for the runes. That's why everyone played it.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm happy that they finally realized that it's not. You don't play a mod because you like it. You play a mod because the rewards are good, and you have no choice sometimes.
I think
I'm also agree that they have to find some different mods on Siege.
Yeah, I think there is a bit of both, right? Because I actually really like Battle Roulette this season because you can have a chance of bombards and stuff in it, which just makes it more fun. It's also kind of crap because there's a lot of Siege, but it's just really fun because it's a quick game mode. You have random units. They can definitely do some work on it, but I like some modes like that. And I didn't mind the mode for the Ashigarus to unlock that. Or like that little wave defense in there, what was it called this season? And I quite liked the one with the hidden chest as well this season because it was different, right? It was different. Together for Victory. It was different. It was quick. It was fairly fun.
Yeah,
but I am also looking at it from. I am actually looking at it from a point of playing with friends, though, right? A lot of random people or people that queue up by themselves could not win it because they were playing with people that didn't know how to play the mode. So I think that I like that they are trying a lot more modes because some of them have been really fun to play, but they need to be careful because some of them are horrible to play.
Yeah, the first mode of the season with the new cap system, where you cap a point and it unlock a new one.
Yeah.
It was really super good to play.
I like that.
Like the most fun. I'm just like angry that I don't get my unit on it, and I have to play unit with random veterancy and random doctrine when I like force myself to grind units, so I want to play them, you know.
But one thing I would add on to it though is like what I really liked is with the one for the Ashigarus, you didn't have to play it. You could just play sieges to unlock it. You had to play a lot of them to unlock it, but you could do that if you didn't want to. So I think having modes where you have a resource that you can't get in other modes. I think having. I'm trying to word this better way, but basically having these new resources that you can get from these new PvE events is good if you can also get them from sieges at a lower number. Because then if you want to, you can just play the crap out of sieges and get that same thing. But it shouldn't just be like, oh, I can play 2 sieges or I can play 2 of this PvE. Because then no one will play the mode, right?
You should not feel forced to do that. And I think
but,
but
I think it shouldn't be easy to get them when you're not playing that mode. So like with the sieges, you had to play a lot because you get like 30 per siege, whereas you could get 1,000 from that event. So I think it was both ways were good.
The good thing is like what they said in the post is like which mod you spend your time on CB, you will get reward as the same, no? Because the idea is like not to force you to play certain mod. It will be just if you play the game, you will be rewarded as the same for every mod. And this is for me the best idea. That's like So if I like a mod who is not lower, I can still play it. And if there is a new mod that is not fun, I will not be forced. And so I find this is really a good news. The only bad thing of it is like most of the new mods they release, if the rewards are not good, they are dead after 1 week, and we can tag it anymore because we are not enough. So this they have to find a way.
So for no reason in particular, I don't want Temple to talk right now. So we're gonna.
I have to say it. I don't know what the. I wasn't even paying attention. I got MVP and had 180 unit kills. My Reaper's got 150 unit kills, and I wasn't even paying attention. I'm like, what the hell just happened? I went, wait a minute, I'm MVP. I was like, holy shit, my Reapers did 155 unit kills.
No reason in particular.
But sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I do think this is a huge acknowledgement from the game. And I think this is another really positive thing, and it kind of just ticks on the boxes like this is good progress, this is good direction we're going in, and I like it, and I do like having these new events, these new game modes as well. I think they are like variety is the flavor of life, so we need to constantly be doing other things.
I think especially. I was going to say, especially that they're only like 2-week events. They're not ones that last the whole season that you have to farm the whole. It's just quick 2 weeks, get a bit of different, and then it's back to something else.
Yes, but this is something that I really now want to hit home, which is that if you, for real life situations, have to take any time out the game, you should not feel punished so significantly that you then can't compete. And the example I'm going to give is the Yan Yadao Doctrine, that was a 2 or 3 week event that a number of players, because it was summer holidays or something, weren't able to attend and play the game when that doctrine was released. And then they missed out on having a doctrine that not only made a unit broken, but it actually made it playable. Because the game wasn't. The Yan Yadao was a really high skill ceiling. It could do its job, but you had to absolutely nail it to get away with it. And then this doctrine comes out, and it becomes the most versatile, forgiving, easy to use unit you could imagine. And that's where I think the game. It's nice that it's got all this variety, but it shouldn't. You shouldn't be so locked into playing at a specific time to then actually be viable and competitive.
And for me, the other thing that is important till we talk about the game mode is like they don't success to give another game mode than the Siege that is really popular, stay long, and bring something really different to the game. You know, there is for League of Legends, for example, Aram is really different idea of the game than what is the normal mode, because you don't play with the same target, you don't do the same thing in the game. And actually I feel that we miss some different gameplay on Conqueror Blade, which move really far away from the Siege, you know what
one I really liked? We had to move that boat along the map. That was a fun mode. Remember that one back from like I think it was like season 6 or season 5.
The boat protection.
Osman season, yeah.
We had to protect the boat and move it along the map. That was fun because it was just different, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That was so good.
I think it's the one Jar was talking about as well. He said the Reggie event in season 4.
Because there is so many mods possible that they can create, and they have to do some, because sometimes as veterans we play all the map, I think more than 1 billion times, and we all know the map, and it's hard to find something new in Siege, except the meta and the unit that change. We still play the same game with the same moment. We go to the same supply. We push to the same place. We defend the same place. We trap the same place. Like
it becomes formulaic.
New thing, you know?
It becomes very formulaic, and it's boring at that point. And then, if the veterans don't want to play it, then what's the point?
Yeah. Also, it was that Winter Boss one as well, where you had that event. We had to kill those 2 enemy heroes that were easy to do once you know what you're doing, but weren't like an easy mode. And that's where I liked the event this season. Once they got rid of that bug where you could retreat constantly to get more leadership, you actually had to pay attention and had to focus, because it wasn't easy. Like, if you know what you're doing, it's alright, but you could still lose it. Like, there was a round where me, Vet, and Junkroot lost it because we were just half asleep, not really paying attention, and we just went, oh crap, we lost all our units, now we have no leadership, what do we do? Shit, we can't finish this. And we have to just leave and restart it. Like, I like the PvE modes when they do them where they're not easy. It's like the Raider camps, right? You don't have to do it, but if you do it, you can get a chance to get crows, but they're not something you can just AFK and fall asleep in. You have to pay attention at least a little bit to get them done. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can lose them very easily.
I mean, we lost because also 3 sides spawned with range.
That was also why we lost. Someone just said in chat, tell the French person, I like to call those who know the maps too well. I call them hackers.
That's the thing with going from tournaments to regular sieges. Is there's tournaments you kind of you break down a map and you go, you know what, there really is a very easy way to play this as the attacker versus as a defender. And then when you see people not doing it, it is vastly different experience, a siege to a tournament.
One of the biggest examples, holding A when it's on the wall, on things like Hidden City, Sun City. In sieges, everyone's like, why are you falling back? We're going to lose now. But in tournaments, you never hold them, unless you're trying to do like a tower defense kind of hold. And the amount of times people will be in sieges, like, I don't want to say names, but it's like specifically NA players, the amount of times they've been on Hidden City going, why are we dropping A on Hidden City? Now we're going to lose the game. And it's like, well, no, you just hold them on the stairs.
You know, this is a subject that is not in the dev, but the map are a question, because it's not normal that on some point that on some map you have to leave point. Like it means you have bad design of map if you have to drop a point on some map, and I think on half of the map you have to drop 1 or 2 points. I mean, all the B on the for like Valley Fortress and all the map like this where you just drop the B because it's like no point to defend. Same for Kurak. Like there is so many points that is.
Yeah, it's what's the one where you got A is in the front gate, B is on the top left wall as you're looking at the map, and you've got base point and
Allenberg.
C. Allenberg, that's the one. I always forget the name of that map. Allenberg is a great example as well. You drop B, if you lose A, you insta drop C as well, and you go back to base point. Like there's 2 points that you drop.
It creates so much frustration again, because for the beginner and the people that are not much competitive, they don't understand why all the team run back. And for the competitive player, we don't understand why some people stay on the point. so we, all the time we get insulted at this moment. So.
And this is one of the things where using the tournament, using CBL and examples like that. Allenberg in the first CB Rivals, I think was probably one of the first times it was played in a tournament setting, certainly to my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it was a genuine tactic of a lot of teams to give B and defend A and C. And as a result, you then had teams that would attack, and the path they would take would be take B, then go along the back wall, and then threaten from that high ground.
Yeah.
And
try and take C from behind, try and force that.
I have never seen that happen in a regular siege. Ever. I've never seen it outside of a tournament. To the point where it's such a unique tactic that it would, like, a lot of people would learn from seeing, like, oh, why have they done that? And they then could potentially start asking questions that will improve their gameplay. And I know a lot of tactics in tournaments are based around respawns, they're based around supply points, and the number of units you can play in a set space of time. And we look at
the old bait and switch as well, trying to push one direction, bait and go another way.
The attacks on White Elk, which we then saw, like, territory war tactics and tournament tactics now get somewhat played sometimes in regular sieges, where you go through breach and then you attack essentially from the spawn side of the defenders, which is quite a unique way of doing it, and certainly wasn't normal until only like a couple of seasons ago. The game is developing and we are like improving ourselves as a level, but it does come down to level design. And this is something that I don't know if we mentioned it today, but Mad, we certainly talked about it last night, which is let the community build maps. And the maps that the community could make, I think this kind of relates to the territory war experience about the development being very slow. When was the last time there was a new map in territory war?
Linwu, right? Actually, no, Linwu wasn't even in territory wars, was it? But that was
Linwu isn't in territory
wars. But I think one thing I would say is this, right? So I think siege map rotation is a hell of a lot better now, because I mean I think I streamed last weekend and the first 10 games were all on different maps, right? I didn't even get a single double up on maps, which was incredible. I was like, we haven't played a single same map at the moment. This has been different every single time, and it was weird because you don't normally have that. Like, there's been times you have like Orgolia 3 times in a row and crap like that in history, but now it's good. But Territory Wars is so stagnant with the maps. You look at Orgolia, you look at Tyrrell, like they have the same maps in the whole region. It was nice when they brought in Reggie, that added some flavour, but then they didn't also play Reggie as a main region for like 10 seasons after that. And all the capitals as well, that are just the same.
There is some easy fix for this. Like, if you have some evolution for the city, like you talked before, when you can add maybe some walls, something like this.
Deployable barricades, Drayton.
and for me, what I dream for the TW is like you place the tower where you want and you break the breach where you want. You have one breach to make in the wall, you make it where you want and tower where you want. And here the game, like, completely different. You can change everything.
It would, but I can kind of acknowledge that would be difficult to implement.
I mean, the only thing we have now, right, is that the
destroying
higher level, the
buildings
better
is
defenders
hard.
you get, right? That's the only difference you have now. The higher level you get a city, the better defenders you have. But maybe, I mean, someone raised this, I think it was in one of the podcasts, we spoke about it, right? Was it potentially Plum, I think, that raised it? It was that maybe every city starts out as a village, but the higher level you get it, the different map it turns into. So then you have a difference where every season the city maps are going to be different. So rather than having people go, oh, well, we know this map's hidden cities, we're going to just go take that at the start of the season, it could be, oh, well, this, we don't know what this map's going to be, it depends on how high level we get it. And maybe the higher level you get it, what you can choose, maybe what map it goes to. Maybe there's some options there. So,
and what you choose to level within it. Let's say you want to develop merchant capabilities in a city. You're not going to have as good a defenders, or you're not going to have a stronger military structure, or vice versa. You go for pure military, and you end up with the Desert Fortress, the like Maoyang Desert Fort map. Like,
and you can go for like crafting cities where you have a better higher smith, means you can craft it better, or it's cheaper, or it costs less resources. There could be options there, which then also impact on what maps you play.
I mean, what we're describing now is realistically what Conqueror's Blade's competitor will be in a couple of, probably a year's time, which is Ashes of Creation, I think. Which is where it looks like you can design cities and level them so that they have the walls that you want, they have the walls and the positions you want, the gatehouses structures you will. It's a whole genre of gameplay that Conqueror's Blade is avoiding, and others are going to use. And if they take even the basis of what Conqueror's Blade has in terms of unit play and hero play and apply it into that setting, it will be a better game. So
Yeah.
someone's raised another point in chat as well, is like it can come down to the actual design of the maps as well. So maybe like the elevation has more an impact. If you're running down a hill, you run fast. If you're running up it, you're slower. There's things they can do with that as well that can have a big impact. Java saying like a tech tree for cities could be good, and maybe the more fief quests you do there, the more you can level up these tech trees to give you other benefits.
Would be so cool, not just from a how you level places side of view, but that actually gives like the leadership of these guilds more responsibility and something to do. Because right now there's not actually that much for them to do other than tell players all the backroom stuff. There's no almost in-game recognition for all the work they're putting in.
Yeah, I mean the only recognition you have is getting the city level higher, so then you have more reputation. That's the only thing you get, really, right? Apart from obviously you have better quality defenders when you hit certain levels as well, which I'm not 100% sure on, but I think it's level 3, 5 and 7 you get better defending units, right? Is it level 5 you get tertios instead of like fusiliers or something like that? I can't remember exactly what the mix is.
And globally for the siege map, what I wish is like what happened in Counter Strike. The player can easily create a map, and what happened is like one of the player that create a map became the game developer for the game, because he create the best map that everyone play now, that are like Dust 2 and some other map. And it just like when you give the asset to create the map to the player, of course a competitive player have a better idea how to balance a map.
Yeah, I mean we're heading in that direction, right? We got the custom battles, so now give us a sandbox mode where we can put in.
Yeah, but I can tell you they will never. From what
I don't think they will.
I don't think they will either. Because they don't want to lose the control of the game first, and second, they want the map to be across reality in the history, so they don't want the map to be built for competitive and that are nonsense, in terms of fortification for the real life. So
yeah, but they would have control of what they pick, right? So you could have it where you have a sandbox mode where you can play it with your friends once you made a map, and then like you can share it with other people. If it gets upvoted enough, then the game devs might look at it.
You wouldn't want a cyberpunk map in this kind of gameplay setting.
Just to answer Arnon, or it's Madshin, that's the French guy in here.
Small accent, maybe.
Okay,
he was like, is that partisan? I was like, partisan in French.
On that subject, they do address attire direction and acquisition. So attire direction basically meaning like they want to keep it somewhat historically accurate. Admittedly, this is a fictitious historical world, but they don't want assault rifles when crossbows are go-to, for example. And people are using plate armor. They want to keep it somewhat realistic. Do we have any issues with what they said there? I'll go through the key points if you guys want to raise anything from your side first.
Love the fact that it's a historically based game. Like it's based on historic stuff. It doesn't mean it's going to be completely true to it, but I agree with them that I don't want loads of modern crap in here, basically.
Yeah, Mad?
Sorry, I received I lose attention 1 minute.
Okay, I'll talk through the people watching it. Basically, the TLDR is they. Oh god, they actually mentioned cyberpunk. Is they don't want the idea of highly technological and modern attire featuring, or even weaponry and stuff like that, featuring in this game. And the reason is it would kind of like.
I just got a huge cocoa throat. Sorry.
It would defeat the thematics of what's going on. In the future, they're considering incorporating themes of ancient legends, but not modern historical stuff. Let's not expect a tank in our gameplay anytime soon.
But I think that's part of the charm why we're here, right? Is because it was marked as like a historical game where you can play as the characters and can play as the units, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So they don't want to bring in things from random eras. And then the way in which people acquire these gear, I think cosmetics are a fantastic way for a company to make money, as long as the cosmetics feel like they are worth the money. And we're going to bring up League again. I don't know if you guys were aware of all the contentions around the latest Ultimate skin, where there was a promise that all Ultimate skins would be of a certain quality, featuring unique animations and things that basically made the game feel completely new in terms of playability for the character that had the skin. And then they released a skin that basically was identical. All it was a recoloring, and players lost their shit.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of the skins we've got some really, really cool ones. We've got some ones that
the Plague
are
Doctor
nightmare
skin.
fuel. We've got absolute nightmare fuel on the gingerbread men.
I love
they are.
But the snowman is my favorite.
About the skin. Like, I come from Black Desert, where you can change the color of every part of your skin. This is something that I will ask. The rest, like, they do a super good job, but just give us a way to customize the skin. They also, like, they already give us the way to hide the cap, how say in English?
Hide the helmet.
The helmet and the cap in the back.
And the cape, yeah.
So, like, this is good work, but please give us some color optimization so we can make fit some different outfit together. Because actually, with the glitching outfit that you got between 2 and the color limit, you are not really free to make a skin original, you know?
Yeah, but I do have an issue with people that wear blue skins on the enemy team, because they
like the Yanya Dao unit skin.
And like the Yanya Dao rank
rank
reward
one,
skin.
Yeah.
Where they honestly look like an ally until they've hit you in the face. I detest
that.
Also,
one thing I was saying. Well, I mentioned on it before as well, right? I love that the CBL skins are all white versions of skins. It makes them stand out more. So then, if we add more white skins, it feels like it's less rewarding. So I can kind of agree on changing some stuff, but I think they should, if we're going to have that, there should be limitations to it.
Yeah, but look, the skin of the next season will be the CBL color, so they're fine to give up it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, they look amazing, by the way. Like, the artwork is fantastic.
If that's going to be... I mean, I can also say that as well, but obviously there was the white samurai skin last season, there's the skin that Vet currently runs, which was that donation one that was white as well, maybe like Gandalf, there's that one as well. So they have added some in there, but I think that more customization would be a good thing for the game as well. But there needs to be limitations to it, like you said, with the colours of the skins.
And just me, I don't want the skin on unit. I think we should remove it fully, but...
Units, I mean, I would disagree because I love the Snowmen skin. I have about 27 copies of that skin because I just went over the top and bought it for everything. But I can agree with you in some regards, yeah, because there are some where it's like, this makes your unit look like a friendly unit. There was the old Invisible Cav skin as well. There was the Plague Doctor skin, not the Plague Doctor, but you know what I mean, like the unit skin for that made them look very hard to tell which team it was on because it was just black and you couldn't. There was no highlights on there of blue or red, or green or yellow or purple if you're running those skins.
The false pike militia skin that people put on their Imperial pikes for a while until people learned that you have to look at the pike, not the character itself.
Or like Java said, there's units like Berserkers where you can't put skins on them because they only have special skins.
Yeah, that's a bit sad.
Which was a bit weird.
That's part of the game, hiding the shape of your unit to make it look like a weaker unit. Yeah, it is part of the game now.
No, but meantime, people charge in, like, in Pike, thinking this is Pike Militia or opposite, you know? It's like, for me, this should not happen. As tournament player, I want to know which unit I have against me. I want to see the body for the Cav, so the bug skin, like we got during 10 season before. This should
I
not
mean,
exist.
one of the first clips I had on stream when I first started streaming properly again was where I'm just going, I can hear Cav coming. I looked behind, there was nothing there, and then Hussars just appeared in the middle of thin air, and I was like, what?
Yeah, that sounds like a skill issue to me.
You can. The clip might still be there. It's funny. I was like, I can hear Cav. I looked. It was on Wolfort on C point. I was like, I looked to the right. There was no Cav there, so I went back to point, and then literally half a second later, a full unit of Hussars ran over me. I was like, okay then.
Yeah, this is the there's a post from Nami now. Couldn't we just put a thing in that disables skins in your settings? They've got that in CBL lobbies or custom lobbies, right? So
Lower ties. Yeah.
Noah ties. It exists. It should be very easy, and I can imagine that a lot of players would not hate that. But you then have the... Is it a tactical advantage to not have skins? And do people gain a tactical advantage by having skins?
I would say
Yeah,
in some
they do.
regards, yes. When we like
they
we
do.
speak with like the Yandy Dow Cav and that kind of thing.
So in ranked, particularly, it should be disabled. Because then there's no ambiguity. And it's exactly the same as tournament rules for that.
Party sense message. They should add skins like the Flaming Horse for units. No, dear God, no.
Please, no. Okay, so do we have any problem in the way attire is earned? For me, as I was leaning to this, cosmetics should be something that players should not be too averse to paying for. Because
Yeah,
it's
I
cosmetic,
think-
it doesn't affect gameplay at all.
I don't mind the system, but there should be a cap on it, so once you spend a certain amount, you're guaranteed the skin. Because there are some people that I know have spent literally thousands of euros for one skin because they had to spend like 30,000 sovereigns to get it. So I mean, I spent on average, I'll spend 30,000 sovereigns for all the skins, right? There's legendary ones and stuff. But I know some people that spent like 300,000 sovereigns for one of those unit weapon skins, one of the weapon skins for the hero.
I think it's the idea of the purple thing that you get. When you delete a skin, like when you shred a skin, you get the purple thing, and the legendary weapon, the legendary skin are sometimes put in this boutique.
They will be eventually, yeah. Eventually will be.
They will be in the shop, but the problem is like you don't win enough compared to what you have to spend. It's like you have to spend 100 euro to get the skin.
I think it's like 300 of those purple ones is the base level for one of those legendary skins, and I haven't even got 300, and I'm buying skins and smelting stuff all the time, you know?
Yes, but yeah, overall, I mean, the skin and the chest are there to make the game live and to win more to gain money. So I'm fine, you know. The only thing that I regret is to lose the weapon skin that it was in the past before. I feel like you know me, I'm Pikeman, and the Pike get released season 8, and since there is like 3 Pike skin and that's all.
And only one of them is identical to the base one.
That's the thing though, right? It's like they stopped doing the skins each season. They do 3 now rather than 1 per weapon. Because I mean, back in the early seasons of the game, I would get like 10 weapon skins every season. Because I'd get like 4 of the ones I wanted for my weapon. I mean, I was playing a lot back then. But let's say I would get 1 for longsword, I get 1 for shortsword, I get 1 for ball, I get 1 for poleaxe. Sometimes I get 1 for dual blade as well, because I used to dabble on that every now and then. And then I'd also get all the antique ones of those. So I would get like 9 or 10 skins every season. Now you'll get like 2, if that. Because you don't get as many blades anymore in the system. They still have the antique ones in there, which is nice, but they only have 3 weapon skins per season, which you don't even earn through the season store anyway, so it's just the antique stuff you can get in there.
It used to be such a key part of new season releases, is when you go and watch King Alpha streaming it, and every 5 minutes someone would pop in and say, what are the skins like for next season?
Yeah.
And he'd go through and show you, because it was such a key thing for so many players if they wanted to know what was available. And it's basically been completely removed now. The antique skins are cool to a certain extent, but because they're just recolored original ones, they're not that exciting as they once were for the Blade Store particularly.
I mean, Nami's raised the point here as
we
well.
don't
Right?
win enough lamb to buy.
You don't get enough blades. I mean, I got enough blades to get 3 skins this season, I think, only because I played like 1,000 games this season, because I played so much. But Nami's raised the point here now. She said they should have a percentage increase similar to the Reforged system. So the more you unlock, the higher percent chance of getting it, but also they should remove that you get separate parts from the pool. Because I've also had this as well, so you're saying you got a legendary skin but only the helmet. I've had it where I've got the same piece of the skin 5 times in a row before I can get the full piece.
Yeah.
Like for example, especially the horse armor ones, the worst one for me, right? I've done it where it's been like the horse armor is in the box as well, and I've had the saddle 6 times before I've had the rest of the horse armor. I'm just like, what the hell am I going to do with 6 times of this saddle?
No.
So there should be some kind of option there for that. There should be some kind of increase or decrease in the percentage when you do it. So like if you've already got the saddle, you have less chance of getting it the next time until you get the full set. Then it resets that and you can go again. If you spend a certain amount, then you're guaranteed the skin, especially with the legendaries. So let's say you have to spend, even if it's like, you know, let's look at the cost, right? So if we're looking at buying sovereigns, I can't look next, the game just popped, but it's like what, 100 and no, it's like 80 euros for me, I think it is, for like 120,000 sovs or something. No, 12,000 sovs, isn't it? Something like that, right? Is it like 90 euros for 12,000 sovs? So just make it like 30,000 sovereigns. If you spend that much, you're guaranteed the skin. Because even that is ridiculous, right? £300 for a skin. But even just adding a limit like that would be beneficial, because more people would be more interested in buying it if you put a limit on there.
More people would be interested in buying it if it felt like good value for money as well. Right. I think the last part of the dev article that we can mention before the final topic is the kind of quick fire questions that we've got from the booming side that were not made available on the My Game side. And these are communications between the devs and players. We won't go through all of them, but Madshin, you've got your side. I want to highlight number 6 on the final image that you sent, which is, why do units sometimes not deal damage during their attacks, such as Iron Cap Scouts charge and Halberdier Sergeants stand firm? After a discussion with designers, the current mechanism of the relevant units is functioning well. Designers info: the weaker mechanisms of the related units will be optimized in later versions. It is recommended for warlords to pay regular attention to game maintenance notes to understand the details of unit balance adjustments. The key part of this for me is the final sentence there. It is recommended that we as the players pay attention to the maintenance notes to understand what balance adjustments are being made. How many things have we noticed as the three of us here change without being written in any patch notes?
The shadow nerf. For me, shadow nerf is the
shadow nerfing,
biggest part of the game. And you know what the guy asked, like sometimes your unit don't do damage and sometimes your unit didn't react the same. Halberdier are a good example of this. If you use the blue Halberdier, sometimes you match up the hero in 1 second. Sometimes hero can dance in it during like 7 and don't die. Like,
yeah, I mean, I've had it where I've walked in,
like
they tickle me, and I'm just like, I've just been one shot by that, and I barely even touched them. There's other times I can just run through the middle of them and be like, they haven't done any damage to me. What is this?
Yeah.
This is kind of thing like I think the dev are still not really much into, and you know, like if you read the reaction, is like they go in the lobby, they test, it don't happen one time, they say no issue.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, another thing just that kind of fits in with that as well, the amount of times maps are broken in the custom battles, or they do it for CBL and cancel it because they don't have a team that goes in and tests them.
Yeah. When they release a map where there is a wall in middle of the pass, you know.
Oh yeah, the like last point on Whitehall.
One like, time, you know.
Guys, there's just this random floating wall in the middle of the map, and they're like, it's fine. A couple of days later, yeah, we're changing the map.
No one will see it.
yeah. I mean, you're on a good one now, Temple. If you go down the stairs on your right, come on, stop playing the game. Go down the stairs and then up that ramp.
This one.
The ramp straight ahead. Yeah, that little ledge at the top sometimes will completely stop you.
Oh, it's not just this one. It's a lot of them, right? So I always have it. The worst one for me is on Highland Fjord, when you're going up the wooden stairs underneath the sea point. Going up those little, the little set that's on the very bottom, if that makes sense, along the front, before you get to the ones that then got the point. Those, I get, the amount of times I run there, 90% of the time I run up those stairs, I'll get stopped, and I go like, I'm sat there just going, why can't I get up these stairs? My horse like jumping, I'm just like, I can't get up the stairs! Just I'm like jumping off my horse.
Ankle high ledges in Conqueror's Blade are deadly because they will just stop you. But yeah, let's go back onto like shadow nerfing, and Jav has just mentioned it there. Accurate descriptions of what skills are, accurate amounts of information. Again, we mentioned this with Super Kidovich, and it will be in the next podcast or the one before this one.
The one big example.
A load of information that is available in game, but not available to see what it is, like crit value or block values or actual how much damage something does, or false penetration.
The big one for me was the old epic schematic set for longsword, and it was just like, your heal has increased. It's like, which part? The heal for the units, the heal for me, the passive heal, like what is increased and by how much? It's like, we're not going to tell you that, just the heal's increased.
Yeah. Like, can you please give me a number? I just demand one number.
Even just say it's
Please,
increased
Lord.
by 1,000. At least that's better than just saying the heal has been increased.
Yeah. So there's that side. Any other points on shadow nerfs?
Another example, you know the doctrine on the model that you tank damage. Every time you take a hit,
Oh
you
yeah,
the damage
the
that you
defense
take.
one.
Yes.
People put on monks and
Yeah.
stuff
No
as well.
one
Yeah.
know how it works. No one know
No.
if like you have to send it to the supply to get it back. If you have to change unit to get it back. If it's after the living battle 1 minute. Like no one know. There is just right. You have defense. If you get hit, the defense lower. You don't know the cooldown. You don't know anything.
Yeah. It's,
But is that because they don't know either? The developers they just
Oh.
go, this will probably work, right? Let's just put that in and just it's
Okay.
fine.
Temple's getting spicy. We need to wrap this up. Basically, the key to this, or me bringing up that topic, is communication. Like, there is information that we don't know, and that they are either keeping from us or they don't know. So we are looking for the sources of that information, and very much would like access to talk to people. We'll keep that in mind. Okay.
But I think
other
that's where this dev
ones-
update is huge, right? Because this is the first time they've openly said there are issues, we're
Yeah.
looking into them. This is like the first major step that we've had from the My Game side of actual open, direct communication about issues in the game. Because you can sit there all you want and say, oh, but you can write in the feedback section, you can message support for bugs and stuff. And it's like, yeah, cool, that's great, but that's not direct response from them saying, these are the issues, we understand there's issues, this is what we're going to look at doing in the future to stop it, or to fix
Yep.
it.
I completely agree, and that's why this is so important that we wanted to record this really quickly. Match in
Next
number
point
10
are
and 10 and 11. Yeah. So the hero's control over the chain dart and scimitar is too strong, making it difficult to deal with in the battlefield. Control is, and then there's a response. Control is the characteristic of chain dart and scimitar heroes, and currently their skill mechanics are in line with their design characteristics, so there are no plans to adjust their skill mechanics in the short term. However, in the optimization of future balance updates, the developers will add countermeasures for control skills for some classes. That is a big thing there.
This is
To improve-
terrifying.
Yeah, this to improve the competitive gameplay in hero battles. Wow.
Who are they going to add that to, and
This
how
I
is
have
that
a
going to?
segment.
Because that is
Yeah,
that's a
Madshin.
very open-ended thing
Yes.
they've said.
Yeah, but
Madshin, go.
you know, there is an issue in this game. I think we all know it. Already on the unit since some season, and now on hero, CC immunity is dog shit. It's game broking. It's anti-gameplay, anti-counterplay. There is nothing again. And when they say, "Oh, we know you have some problem with the control CC. We will give them countermeasure against the CC." We all know what it means. We will give CC immunity to everyone, and so at the end, jump in the unit. We can counter you, the Mole and the Pollax. We know you guys in the chat.
Yeah, but on the other side though, is that then going to turn the meta of the game? So people will be playing a lot more Poleaxe choke ult, they'll be playing more grab, they'll be playing dual blade with the ulti, they'll be playing chain dart with the choke, because you can't. CC immunity doesn't get countered by that, or CC immunity is countered by that.
Like actually, at the moment, Temple, when there is a Mole with a Maestro coming in your unit, and most of the weapon, we have no counterplay. We have to watch him kill the Coco, the Changer, or any exotic you can play, and say, "Oh, he probably play better the game than me. I can counter the skill that is on." And after it's a Pollax who come with an ultimate with like CC immunity and did 80% of my life as a medium. He can one-shot me with this spell. He is immune CC.
Yeah, I think we should just play better when that happens.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's not satisfying to play against, and as you mentioned on a previous one, and I think relate this to monks. It's like one on their own is not a problem. It's when you have too many of them, because you can use your key cancellation ultimates. Let's say you're a Poleaxe with Rough Justice, you're a Pike who has to use their ultimate and then the choke part, you're a Dual Blade, for example, to counter that one person with CC immunity. What happens when the next guy comes? What happens when the one after that comes?
Yeah, I think
that's where
everyone can agree that
it's-
CC immunity is just dumb in this game in general. I think there's two different ways to look at it. CC recovery, that to me is skill. It's like the doctrines that you have for the shield mains, and the people then started putting on imp shields because they realized that it resets their block as well. Like that to me adds more skill to it. I think it's overtuned on imp shields now because they have their own CC immunity in the fights. But for me, like the imp shields are a unit that it makes sense to have the CC immunity built into them. right? Because they are a unit whose entire job is to tank on the front line. And so for me, I feel that imp shields, they don't necessarily need it, but it is fine on them. But you compare that to the likes of the Yan Dao, the likes of the shield main with the CC recovery, that made them broken for a long time. I think the fact that it has a high cooldown, you can play around it, so that's fine. People learn how to respect that. But then you look at units like the Yan Dao, there's just no counterplay to that, right? Realistically, they nerf it out, but heroes as well. Every season, the most played hero is the hero that has CC immunity on its runes, basically, or on its unit.
But me, I missed the game back season ago where you needed a lot of damage, so it was pretty hard to jump in it. And so the only weapon who can jump in it was short sword with the dragon, and who can make an ultimate to open the formation. This for me is more interesting when you get an imp shield to say, okay, I need to get a short sword. He's the only weapon that can open the imp shield, and after I can have some maul who will do some damage. Then say, okay, no, all the units are can't one-shot an hero except the Oni and the one of this season, the Onamsha and the Maiden, like some few units, but most of the units, you can jump in it with a maul and disrupt them. Before, you need to get a short sword who did the first open, and after you can sound some maul and something like this. This is how the game was built. Now you give CC immunity to your front line, so get a short sword is pointless, and you have to get some hero that do damage on long term who are tanky. And after this, you add the Reforge, so you buff again the heavy. So the game actually is built on the heavy because of the CC immunity and the Reforge. And for me, the meta is garbage.
I don't mind the meta too much at the moment, mainly because I am a longsword heavy player, obviously. And I think that one big issue for me as well, right, is it was the Reforge system itself, because that just favors heavy armor. Because I've spoken about it before, but the Reforge system, it is so much easier to craft decent armor than it is to craft a good weapon. Because you look at players like Vet, now he's crafted basically a god dual blade. He can kill heavy armors easily. He has no problems with it. But without that god weapon, you will struggle with it. So you are more heavily reliant on crafting good weapons than you are on armor, because anyone can just craft some basic armor, because the base stats on it are so much higher, they're going to do fine. But for those classes that need to kill heroes, they need to get good stats to be able to be useful with this Reforge system.
You know, even out of the stat of the weapon, I didn't win so me. I have a good pack. I didn't win so much damage, but the problem is like you give more tankiness to the heavy, you give more tankiness to the light, and more tankiness to the medium. My job as medium and the job of light is to kill an heavy. So us, we became tanky,
I think that they should add more damage stats on there. So, like for example,
Yeah.
I think that the armor for medium and light armor should be able to roll extra damage and not extra tankiness. So instead of getting, like, for example, like I've got a longsword that has 12 toughness and 8 armor on it as a bonus stat because I got good rolls on it. Like a chain dart, for example, should be able to not roll that and should be able to just roll damage instead. And that would make it a lot better. I think that the way they balanced it is by the max stats that you can get on those items, which obviously then favors the armor, because it's a lot easier to roll decent stats on that than it is to roll the perfect stats on weapons, especially when we go into another issue then, which is the fact that some weapons have 3 different types of stats that you can roll, and some only have 1.
And in the Reforge system, some of those have an additional penetration value they can roll, some have an additional damage value that they can roll, it's a very poor skill. Like some armor now can have like +9 slashing pen.
Yeah, I get it on my epic longsword stuff all the time. It's really annoying me because I keep getting like armor pen and blunt pen and slashing pen. I'm just like, why? I don't need this.
Like,
give me the actual base stats.
This is the thing. That means because it's on the armor, it exists. But currently, it exists in such a weird and low scaling value that it's meaningless compared to the impact of having like +1 piercing defense versus having +1 piercing damage. The defense scales harder than the damage does right now. So that just kind of maybe that they could bring that in line and have that a little bit higher. So
yeah, I also don't think that chain darts is as big an issue as they're trying to say in the statement either. Like, I think it is a very toxic class, but I don't think it's as big an issue as they're making out. And then, like you said, them saying, we'll add countermeasures for control skills to other classes to balance this. Great. Because if you, realistically, every class has a countermeasure, right? Every class has CC recovery, right? Every class does. It's built into their kits. It depends on which skills you take. The issue isn't that.
Yeah, I think the chain dark is pretty. At the moment, I see more and more in the lobby and in Frontier where they have more medium. Actually, weapon is probably a trouble, you know. So that's why we get the question on Frontier FAQ. But the answer of the dev, like saying that okay, we put CC in the game, oh, it's fine, we'll put anti-CC in the game so we don't have trouble with the CC anymore. Just remove some CC. Like, where is the point? And, people like Vazek cry for like a billion of seasons that there should not be a skill like Pollax, I forget the name.
The choke ult.
The choke. There should not be choke ultimate in the game and choke CC. Maybe he's right, and so you don't have to put CC immunity if there is no choke. So this they have to look about, and for me this is the part of the dev of the dev node that is really problematic. They don't talk anywhere about the hero meta and the hero vision, and for me it's probably the worst part of the game this two last season. The unit meta, yes, we have trouble with the Yaneda, we have trouble with some units, but it's okay compared to what is the diversity of the hero meta.
I think, to be honest with you,
right now,
the biggest issue with the Yanyadeos is because the server doesn't register them a lot, because of the server, the like difference in quality of the servers. Because on booming, they're not as big an issue, because, for example, they won't charge through your units before registering them damage and then hit stuff. They'll just insta die to 40s, they'll insta die to impikes, they'll die to a lot of units. Whereas on our servers, because the servers aren't the same quality, they can get through and deal their damage before they take damage.
And it's even worse for the Turkish community, because more ping you have, better the unit is. And like, if you watch the clip of Barbar, for me it's crazy. Like, if you watch the clip on the YouTube video of Barbar, when he sent the cav to the Brasio, he didn't take any damage of it. Like, even if he's in front. If I do the same, I will lose it.
Yeah, I have it all the time myself. I'll see people doing these epic cav charges that get like 80 unit kills with a new cav. I send mine in, I get like 5 and they insta-die. Admittedly, I'm bad with cav, but still, that's my point, is like, some people can do so much better with them because of ping issues, because of where they are in the world, because of how the cav works. And I'm going to hold my hands up, I am an awful cav player, I hate playing cav, but that's still my point, is like, you can still counter them, but it's also easy to do really well with them.
Yeah.
Remember that for the next CBR about him being a terrible
compared to hero meta. Actually, when I watch the Nation Cup and I see like 7 AV by comp and like 5 mole, I'm like, okay, that's pretty sad, you know.
Yeah, but it's what players are thinking they have to do to win.
It's great, like the Reforge make the AV so strong, it would be stupid to don't pick AV, but that means that the game have a big trouble to manage the hero balance since, and they don't talk about in the dev block, so that means maybe for them it's not a trouble. You know, it's always scary when you have an issue, and the dev don't recognize the issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's also, just looking at it realistically, right, I think part of the reason we've had such a big rise in chain darts is because of the big spam of maul. Because chain dart has the shortest cooldown choke that can deal with mauls diving into units. Otherwise, the only thing that can stop a maul is a Pollax choke ult or a dual blade ult, right? That's literally the only thing when they're maelstroming.
Or more mauls.
Or a maul grab or something like that. But you know what I mean? Like, the only thing you can do to stop a maul spinning in the units is to either hit it before it gets in, which a lot of players won't be good enough to do, because the mauls are good enough that they can spot the spots they can do it, or you have to choke them. And there's only 3 chokes in the game. So I think that's also why we've seen the chain darts come rising, especially in sieges, because sieges are more... they're easier to get more side picks in, if that makes sense. Whereas if you look at tournaments, they're more chaotic, you can get picks, but especially with the nations, because I know you're talking about that. Like, it is an 8v8, so everyone has such a huge impact. You can't get as easy flanked, or get those easy flanks off, because there's less players in there. You've got to focus more on the front fight. You know, there's certain ways you have to play that, which is why the heavy was so good there for me personally. Also because of the bans, everyone was banning shields. Or if they weren't banning shields, you had nothing that could kill those shields, so you had to play mauls to be able to deal with it.
Yep, all big things. But on the subject of cav, let's go to the final point on this, which is question 11. The Yan Yadao cavalry's insta-kill ability is too strong, making it difficult to deal with them on the battlefield. For this, they say previously on June the 29th, we improved the balance of Yan Yadao cavalry during the maintenance of our game version. And then important information, Yan Yadao cavalry is expected to undergo further balance adjustments and optimizations in the new season. Stay tuned. Okay, so
there should be a dev. This is a good news.
Yeah, this is good news. It's good news. But if we look at that, it's the 29th of June is when they made those changes, and we are recording this on the 26th of August, 2 months later, and they are finally acknowledging a issue, and that they...
What I would like to add to that, though, is that Yan Yadao while they're not where they need to be, they're in a lot better place, and you can deal with them. Like, you don't see 15 in a game anymore. To be honest with you, all the sieges I've been playing this weekend, last weekend, and all through the week and everything, you'll see maybe 5 max in a team. Like, maybe in some of the higher quality lobbies you see one, but like in the random sieges, you won't see that many. You'll see 5 max, I think. And so they're not as strong as they were before.
Okay, in TW, it was a big trouble.
Oh, TW,
for example, help a bit to attack Ghostbuster, to attack the Russian on Anyang. And when you have a respawn at 10 meters of the final point, and you have the Yanedao, who is legit unstoppable and can go into Brasio, I think there is a trouble to take the city, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same on Orgolia. Once Arcadia started playing more Cav, we started playing more Cav. It's just, this is the way to counter it. Like, Cav spam, unfortunately, is a thing. But I don't think that's a problem with Yami Daika. That's just the game in general. It's always been Cav spam on capitals because of the spawn differences, and it just works for defenders in that regards. But Yanidao made it a lot easier to do that, and it was a lot harder to counter it. 100% agree with you on that.
Java, you know, it's not all the time the case. For example, Rechari wasn't that good, Ashashin wasn't that good. That was a lot of seasons that we didn't have a unit that rules as much as the Yanidao did.
To be honest, I think with the Hashashins, people just didn't know how to play them, right? Because they were quite strong. And you have some good use from it. And I think with the Golden Jabs, again, people just didn't know how to play them properly. But they weren't as overpowered as some of them have been. I will agree with that.
Because, you know, me, Java, I don't think they do it on purpose. I think it's more like they suck at balancing when they release an unit. Because anyway, they don't need to make the unit broken to make us play. Just make it meta and we will take it, because we have all the units, so the only thing that we have to do in the season is to unlock the new one. It's like our only content.
Well, I think it's more like this, right? It's like normally the new season units counter the current meta. That's normally how it's worked most of the time, from what I've seen. And so they're always going to be fairly strong because they've designed them to counter the current meta. So, for example, with the Orochis and the Onimusha and stuff, it was like we were very heavy, like shields and things like that, and these units kind of countered that, right? We were very heavy 40s. They're both very good into 40s. Very heavy monks. Again, they're both, well, actually, Orochi are terrible into monks, but Onimusha are good into monks. Like, the units that tend to work favourably into the current season's units. So I think that's part of the reason why they're also so strong.
You can look through historically how the game worked, where you had Season 2 first seasonal unit, you've got Keshig and 4 Cav units there. And what did you get in Season 3? You got Pavis, which were a counter Cav ranged, and Fortebraccio counter Cav. One after that is you have a amazing ranged unit that can kill static infantry, so the Janissaries, the Azaps just walked through Fortebraccio brace as if it was nothing.
It was to counter the Impike also, I think,
and to counter the Impikes. So you've got a number of units there that countered the previous season. We go to the one after that. We have a unit that braces and then can't be countered by the Azaps, and it has a shield, so counters the Janissaries, and then the Flamethrowers killed that. To counter that, you then had Quick Cav again, which was able to move around the slow-moving infantry of the previous season. To counter that, you then have the Wolves of Ragnarok season, which doesn't quite fit thematically, but did pretty good into those other units, particularly if you took at the Landschnecks that were there. And we basically just walk through it, and you go, for quite often, the current seasonal units countered the last seasonal, if not the last 2 seasonal units. And that's kind of how it's worked throughout the entire existence of the game. We're not surprised by that, because what they want to do is they want to release a unit that feels good to play, and therefore counters the meta. I think that's kind of like obvious, and I hope all players now see that as for what it is, which is that it is designed to sell. And for it to sell, it needs to be...
At the end of the day, they're a business model, so I don't think it's a bad thing they designed to sell the game. Like, that's what they should be doing. Because otherwise, how are they going to maintain their model going forwards, you know?
Yep.
Hades, we touched on it earlier. The purple helms with mastery are not OP in our opinions, but we touched on it earlier. If you want to go back and look at it, they kind of take away from what we as veterans consider the units to do. So.
Okay,
and Java does raise a good point. If they are so strong that they have to be played sometimes, that is bad design.
Okay, so on this subject, basically this is all bringing us back round to the fact that we've had some acknowledgement from players to developers. It might not be many of us as the my game side, but it certainly is some players are giving feedback. And we're of the opinion and we're understanding that there looks like there may be some communication lines now being opened up between us and the developers, and who it is that will be doing that is undecided. And what I'd now like to do is, I'll ask Mad, I don't want you to speak for him, but you know him pretty well, is Amir did a post on the Content Creators Discord. Do you think he'll be okay if I share that?
Yes.
Okay.
If he writes something somewhere, he's okay to make
Okay.
it public.
Fair enough. So basically, Amir is a active member of the community, or not so active anymore because he's not playing in many tournaments. But he's very, very up to date with how the game state is and things like that. He was also on one of our podcasts earlier. So he wrote a message to the developers and to the community managers, which I'll read to you now. This latest Q&A is by far the best devs to player talk we've ever had in the game. You have now shown a clear opinion on the game's state and your future goal. We can read that you understand that spamming new game modes forces everyone to do them. TW is in one of the worst states it's ever been. Tournament is a priority, and it's what makes veterans stay in the game, and the units meta needed direction and little tweaks, but little by little tweaks to balance them. These findings are a real relief to the hearts of players who feel abandoned and out of touch with what the developers have considered like lack of communication. A healthy game always has a healthy relationship between devs and players. We would have liked to have a few words about the current unbalanced hero meta and other issues that many of the community feel is having a negative impact on their enjoyment of the game, such as control immunity spam on both hero and units, as well as Doctrine's RNG and the RNG crafting system. And that's why, after this renewed relationship between developers and players, it's the perfect time to introduce new ways of communication, permanent and timed. And this is the kind of three things that he proposes. The creation of an ambassador role, a tournament team leader, important CBU YouTuber, veteran player, who would raise an issue and be in direct communication channel from players to developers. The second point is a monthly video where developers talk directly to players about issues the ambassadors would raise. And the third is these ambassadors would not be there for personal gain, be representative of the community and raise the issues there. A final thing that he'd like, and I think a lot of us would agree on this, is a creation of a roadmap so players can see where the game is going. This roadmap and ambassador role would help set a direction and make players feel listened to, excited about new content and less worried that the developers are not understanding the roots of their problems. So that's all from Amir. I think it's relatively well worded as well as the arguments are sound. And I think we should address like the 3 or 4 points that he raised there, which is the creation of an ambassador role. I've spoken to a couple of people about this, and I think it's someone who should be selected or put forward. It should not be someone that nominates themselves ever for this kind of role, because it's actually quite a big one. I think they're going to arguably have a reasonable amount of work to do on this, and it needs to be someone that's relatively clued up. What do you guys think?
My concern with it is because they'll always try and balance it and put some smaller players in there as well, because they've always done that when you look at the Warlord chat and things in the past. That was supposed to be direct feedback from house leads towards the CMs, and it ends up with just it could end up with people just go, Maul's just broken, you need to nerf it, and things like that, which is not the kind of conversation you want in there. You want to have logical conversations where you can say, we're seeing too much of this unit, or we're seeing too much of this. These are the reasons why we think it's strong. These are the reasons why we think it should be changed. This is the thoughts of the community on this, or this is the thoughts on my community from YouTube, whatever it is that you're having on. It needs to have logical conversation, not just, this is broken, nerf it. Oh, this is too strong. Yeah, this no one plays this, it needs to be buffed. Like, it needs to have logical, actual, reasonable arguments behind it that the developers can see.
I have a good example about this. You know, the season, I think 11, we see a video with Amia with the guys doing the tweaks with the Chevalier and the Albertier when they shoot super fast and make the unit super strong. At this moment, no one was playing the unit. When the unit is released, the season, I think it's the 11 one or the 10, I don't know which number is. But when the season is released, no one played the unit during the season. Everyone found it trash, you know. And after we find the video with Amia of someone doing this on Asia, and we start to play it in SnapView, and we destroy the lobby with it. And I sent a message to Millard in the Warlord channel and tell him, Millard, you should give a feedback to Dave right now that this unit super broken, you need to nerf it before it became meta. Because soon you will see full of it in the lobby, and everyone will get one shot, and everyone will cry about. The problem is like the moment where Milord have to start to like give the feedback. You have to see the guys in my games that manage the communication with Booming. The guys have to tell it to Booming, to the guys of Booming, and the guys of Booming have to tell it to the dev. And looks like this take more than a month, because what happened after, the 2 weeks after the chef became meta, everyone was spamming it in Snipe You, and we see more and more in Siege. And it was like, don't know if you remember this meta, but it wasn't super fun to get one shot by billion of chefs everywhere. And you know, this is kind of thing that if a player that is competitive can tell it to the dev that yes, we are doing scrim or we are doing a snipe queue, we see that this unit is unbalanced and soon it will become super popular. It will be way faster for the dev to fix it before it's an issue than after 2 months of meta abusing it, you know.
Yep.
So this is why it's important that if we can get direct talk and not have to fit like to cross 6 or 7 people to get the contact.
And also the other part is, do Booming take the feedback from my game seriously? We don't know that. We don't know what the relationship is like, right? They could look at it and just be like, we don't care about that. We're looking at the numbers from our side and it looks fine. You know, we don't know what that relationship is like from them.
We are like probably the smaller community that they have on Conqueror Blade, because NetEase is probably bigger and we don't have any idea of the server, of the state and the number of players, but till they do some big convention with people cosplaying IRL and like tournament IRL and things like this, I think on NetEase, so the Chinese server is probably super big, because you see the stat of the video on Bubbly of Conqueror Blade, it's like I think I see some 300k view on some video, on some random montage, so there is probably a big Chinese community. The Frontier community is also bigger than ours, so that means should they listen the 5% of Europeans that are playing the game compared to all the rest? I'm not sure, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's difficult. And this is kind of where I think having a team together, like you mentioned the Warlords channel, it's clearly not worked.
Oh, the Warlord channel is dead. I mean, like I said,
it was intended.
Yeah, it used to be at the end of every season. You get all the house leads in there. The most filled I saw, there was like 5 house leads in there. And I used to this is when Bluntcast did it, right? So I used to do it every season. They don't even talk in there. No one talks in the Warlord channel. Like it used to be, you go, oh, Territory Wars is broken. You might want to get this sorted straight away and stuff like little things like that. And they'd look at it straight away and it's fine. Nobody's done anything with it. The Warlord channel is dead. Has been for like 5 or 6 seasons at least.
The
so
French
this could be something that can change.
To be honest,
well, this is just the English one. Yeah, the French one might be different, but the English one was dead because I think after Blunt left, no one picked it up.
Blunt left the game, the community.
Yeah, he went.
Yeah, Bluntcast went
to Jagex.
Yeah, so he's working on RuneScape now
okay,
instead. Yeah, so the new English one now is Joel, right? And nice guy, lovely person to chat to, but he does not know anything about this game. We've seen that from the streams he does, like, and the way he talks stuff. Like, he's a great guy. I've had some great chats to him when I did like little stream with him and stuff as well. But he does not know this game at all.
That's what he said, to don't recruit someone from the community, from my games. Me, I was CM on the last game that I played, and they basically take the CM in the veteran player after some year in the game.
The only downside I would say is they've now recruited both English-speaking CMs are both American, so you have no one on during the daytime for us, because you've got a Canadian and then you've got Katie as well. I'm pretty sure Joel's Canadian, isn't he? And so they're on different time zones, so it's like there's no CM that actually watches over the English side, really.
Okay.
Gizmo Bluntcast went and worked for RuneScape on one of the companies over there. So he's the same over there. I think what's his name now? It's like Death something or other, isn't it? Or Dark something. I can't remember what it was now.
I can't remember.
He pops into the official CM, to the official Conqueror's Blade stream every now and then. He pops in and says hi. He was in there a couple last week. I think he popped in and said hi when Katie was streaming.
He was good.
He was a good egg.
Okay, second point. Monthly video where developers talk directly to players. I don't think we've got much to say about that, because obviously the developers have full-time jobs. But having the ability to, say, gain their list of what changes they've made beyond the patch notes and what their current themes and thoughts are, and then doing a video around that should be quite doable, right? And that's
even
also
if it's just like a short 10-minute video that just says these are our thoughts for this month, this is what we're working on. Doesn't have to be specifics, just this is stuff we're looking at the moment. We're aware of your concerns on this. Again, it's just more communication, right? So it's basically like this dev update they've done now, but just answering the questions on a voice channel instead. Because also that builds a better community with the developers as well. Gets them more known by the public and gets them more involved with things. I mean, even you look at Hearthstone, not Hearthstone. You look at TFT, and they've got Mortdog that streams and plays the game and just chats with people, and that's built up more of a community around that. And so they have more input, so they feel more connected to the team, they feel more connected to the game, and they feel like they have more input on, or more like stuff, more sort of communication with that dev team. They feel like it's going to be a better relationship there. Historically with CB, the large part of the population has had zero interaction with CMs, with devs, anything.
I think Mortdog is a massive exception though. Massive exception. Like I think he says every year he either gets to Masters or to Diamond in the game that he develops, and that means his finger is on the pulse of what the problem is in the game. And also, like, someone can come up with this revolutionary new team comp, and in a game that he's playing, and he goes, well, that's a bit strong, that's not as intended, and he can then essentially fix things immediately because he's playing the game and he streams like 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah,
so
and
it's
you
very
can compare it to CB, for example, and you can go to CM and say, this is broken, and they wouldn't know anything about it. They'll have to go investigate, and that's why we say the time takes adds up a lot with it, because then they've got to go investigate, they've got to ask other people, they've got to ask some of the mods potentially for their input, they've got to try and investigate themselves first to find out if that is the case, if it is game breaking, what its impact is on the games.
And then this will be where the ambassador role is, where they will come with evidence, and their reasoning is not going to be "trust me, bro." It's going to be, I've got this in games. Here's some videos. I've had people send me clips of these interactions. This is how it's reproduced, for example. And that can't be one person. That has to be a team. It has to be a team of people, and they basically will then provide feedback in a way that is impossible to misinterpret. And you then provide that straight into the hands, or as quickly to the hands of the devs as possible. Minimum hands it's gone through, so it's a very quick process. Because currently, as Matt explained for his interactions with the Lord, it's taking too long. And we then see, like, even in its current state, everyone who saw the changes to Yanya DAO 2 months ago would have said, well, that's going to do nothing. That's not why you're picking them.
Another case that we can talk about is the change they made to Maul. When they nerfed like the cooldown of the ult for the grab, and it was like that wasn't the issue that everyone had with Maul. Was it the start of this season or was it the start of last season? I can't remember. It was the start of this season, I think. And we were like, what are those changes? Like, those changes are not what made the class broken, in our point of view.
Madshin, do you want to quickly talk about that one? Because I know you've got some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I know that, you know, the French Warlord channel is a good example of this. When we go to the meeting temple, so time ago, 2 or 3 seasons ago, all the Kazu player was crying about the Maul grab. Maul grab was an issue for the Kazu, like a big issue.
Yeah.
And so the nerf is just the answer to the Kazu. So
it's always been that case. Like, it's always been that case where you have the casuals argument saying, and then you have the vet sitting there going, but that's not an issue. What are you talking about? That's not a problem with the game. And it's why I have a problem. Like, while I do agree Maul is overtweaked now, it's like people go, there's no counter to Maul, it's just kills. It's like, no, there are counters, just you don't play them. It's the same thing with Keshigs when they were broken as well. Like, Keshigs were broken, but at the same time there were hard counters to them within pikes, but no one was playing them sieges because they're not fun.
It was super easy to stop. It was probably the most balanced.
Even pike militia stopped them.
Yeah.
But no one was playing that in sieges because no one wanted to, because they weren't overpowered, they weren't killing everything, so they didn't want to play it. And that's the part of the problem we're talking about with the split of the non-competitive and the competitive side of the community. There is a massive difference there. Because the competitive side are willing to play units that counter what's strong because they know that it's going to counter that, whereas the casual siege player just wants to play what's fun. And there's nothing wrong with that, but then they shouldn't have an impact on the balance of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
But this the dev have to understand, and I think it will take some time. But you know, more we go to the time, more like less Kazu we have, and more tryharder we got, because only the tryharders stay on the game long. So at the end they will finish to listen to us because we will be alone on the game. So.
Yep.
Let's see.
Okay, so the roadmap. I think a roadmap is quite obvious about the benefits it would have, just from understanding what it is the game direction is. I think what kind of information do you think would be good in a roadmap? Like,
I mean, I think
for a season, or?
something that could be exciting for players. Not necessarily what the next season will be, but here are some thematic ideas we have for upcoming seasons. It doesn't have to be next season will be this season. It doesn't have to be next season will be this theme. It'll just be we've had an idea to do this as a theme for the season, because that'll get people excited and talking about it. It doesn't have to come out anytime soon, but it could just be some ideas like that, or these are some ideas of units that we want to bring out. What are your thoughts?
You know, Mastery, for example, we should know like six months before that they want to try to work on the new Mastery system on unit that will come. Reforge same, and so people will not was the schematic before it gets released and not get mad because they say, okay, I have no schematics, people will be way stronger than me, I leave the game because no, I would suck. And this happened to a lot of veteran players that have lost everything and have like literally shit weapons since the Reforge. So
and then there's me role playing longsword. I had the schematics ready. I'd already made a epic schematic set. And I was just ready. I was like, great, I can reforge this now. Perfect.
But that's you essentially getting lucky.
Yeah, 100%. But there are a lot of people that were like building loads of schematics, putting 20 schematics into their weapon to get the perfect roll, and they go, oh crap, now I have no schematics for all these armors that just come out, and it's going to take me 2 seasons to get a number to get it.
Because it was already the same in season 7 when they released the purple doctrine.
Yes.
People who have treat just win and the other one lose.
Or when they brought out the Doctrine Alchemy and everyone was like, I just wasted 200 doctrines trying to get that one doctrine. Now I've brought this out where I need loads of doctrines to be able to smelt in this.
Yep. And just like having a roadmap of knowing that that's what's going to come would stop players from making decisions that make them want to quit a lot more.
You know, me, like, if I want a roadmap, I want to know, like, if there is a TW Reforge system in the year, just say that we are working on TW rework system. Okay, we know that you are working on. We are working on the making new map in Siege, because we don't have new map in Siege since the French one. We have the rework of Kurak, but we just lose a map for this to get a new one, so it's like not a new map till we just lose a map for it, and they had 3 on the what's the name of the map? The Whitetail Fort.
Yeah. Or here's an idea,
we don't have
you
new
still
map for
have
real.
You still have the old Kurak when you're a new player though, and then you suddenly get to a certain level and you'll be playing on the new version of the map. Or like another thing just on the maps, like add more of these siege maps into the territory war rotation. Because then players will learn the maps more. But sorry, I got a bit sidetracked there, but yeah.
But you know, like, I don't know how, like, if people understand it and imagine, but we don't have new map since French season 5 seasons ago. No siege map since. That's crazy. Like back before, there was one new map every season. So like this is for me not possible. Because this is the base gameplay of the game, and we are all going to tag siege. And if we play on the same map again and again and again, we stop starting siege.
Even the same map, but look at someone's raised it in chat as well. But remember when the siege rotation was just for 2 weeks you play on one version of Reggie, then you play on the next version of it where it had been opened to the next thing, then the next stage you play on the next version. There was like 3 different versions of the Reggie map, and at least that, even though it was the same map, that still added some variation, right? They can do more stuff like that, even if they don't want to make a whole new map.
Yeah, for sure. But they need to work on this, because this is the day on CB that you do. It's like the map you are playing, and if you stop release map, you are stop playing the game because you don't want to just play the same map again. And I remember when there is a new map, when there was the French map, you know, you start siege just to be on it and to play and to test the map.
Yes. And this is where I'm thinking, and I'm going to relate this to another game that you mentioned something almost identical to, but not quite the same, which is in other games where they release DLCs. And we see this with every time they release a new season. New seasons means hype, because people are like, right, the day that this is coming out is the 14th of September. I know I need to be playing games, I need to clear my evening, whatever, on the 14th of September to play. And people, because they know this thing is coming, are anticipating it, and there's hype. So I'll give you the example of custom lobbies. When customs lobbies got released, that is exactly the kind of thing that needs to be and should have been in a roadmap.
Yeah.
So
it was just, oh, by the way, tomorrow we're getting custom lobbies. Wait, what?
yeah, like that. What kind of...
And that was something we've been crying for seasons.
Product are you trying to sell there? Like, you had something that the community was desperate for and was then going to dive into and spend, like Mad, I know how much time you spend in custom lobbies, spend thousands of hours in, and it was just kind of like, oh yeah, it's happening, guys.
I mean, even this
rubbish.
season,
That's
take the server merge as an option. Like
I
that could have been
that
a roadmap thing.
3 hours
I mean,
before it happened.
we predicted it for a while, right? It was like kind of teased, and the fact they put it off. But there was also the option where it just wouldn't happen because they've teased about it a lot in the past. But they could have also just said, "Hey, we're going to do a server merge in the next season." They could have done that. They could have announced it at the start of this season, for example. They could have said it. They could have given some kind of notice. Oh, by the way, the new season starts in 2 weeks, and then like 2 days later, like, oh yeah, also by the way, the server's going to merge.
And you know, another thing about the season release and the hype that you talk, this I think it's probably the thing that make us lose the more player that we never lose before. Is like no, when there is the new season hype, you have to play in blue unit, so people are hyped by the new season. They come on the game and they see that they can play the unit that they want, and they leave back. Same, so no, when you have a new mod or new thing, it come later in the season. So like you don't use the hype of the new season, for example, because people can play the mod that they want, can play the unit that they want, so they just run back and the hype gone. And so if you have like, they do it a bit this season, but if you have really like a roadmap of what is going to be released in the season when there is a new map coming this week in the season, so you know when you are going to play. Actually, we are just like walking, and sometimes you say, okay, next week there is an event, new mod, play it, okay. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's just when the patch notes come out, right? And they're like, oh, by the way, there's a new event coming 4 days later when this patch happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not enough communication. So a roadmap featuring those kind of like big things to look forward to. A season structure would be really, really nice. Like at the start of the season to know roughly what's going to happen, such as we have the campaign, right? That's on the F5 menu. Let's say within that they'll say you should expect 3 unique game modes to be released, whether or not they announce it's a PvE, PvP, whatever. Yeah. And that literally just say, or we hope to release this number, because they obviously don't want to repeat what they happened with the Shenjis, which is said Shenjis are coming. Oh, they're bugged. We can't release them. Oh, no, they're still bugged. We can't release them. It's just like communicating. Just say, you know what, we're desperate to release them. They're not ready. It's a very, very different response from a community than saying, we promised you this thing, it's not here. And hushing it under a rug and not talking about it and refusing to acknowledging it in any communications. That's not how you do business these days. Like, people, they need to wake up and be realistic. And I think they are better. They are a lot better now than they were, certainly. Alright, I think that is all the key issues that were kind of brought up over the last couple of days. Unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about.
Don't think so. I think it was already pretty long for the people.
Yeah, very long.
Server merge?
Server merge,
Finally.
super good. Super, super good. Apart from it is probably about 8 months too late.
Me, I'm not sure, but not sure that's a good idea. But let's see. I think like for the people who
you don't even play Territory War anyway, so it doesn't even affect you.
yeah, but you know, I think for the other, like I mean, I will take the Pasta example. Most of people don't like them, and they are what they are, you know. But out of it, they run away of everyone to don't have to face the origin chasing on the map, and to don't just get focused and lose the territory because they didn't get any fun of TW because of it. And so now people that want to run away of everyone because everyone situation is pretty not funny, with the one big alliance like ruling on the other one and just beating everyone. No, they don't have the possibility to run on another server, so they will not make TW and probably stop the game. So I'm not sure this is a good news. Also,
no, I don't know, right? Because the higher population, the harder it's going to be to dominate an entire server, right? Because just the law of numbers, right? As long as people work together with the numbers, then it's going to be harder for one alliance to hold an entire like server to be like.
No, because most of the people will do the win dog and join the alliance that already win, like all the time. And at the end, you will see that next season, Legacy will hardly win, and no one will fight them. And this is pretty sure.
I don't agree with that. I think there's definitely a couple of alliances that are being built that could compete against Legacy, especially if they work together. We'll see. I think Legacy have the strongest raid, I think, definitely. But we'll see what happens, because there are some good players on EU2. It just depends on what alliances get built, right? But I think there's some decent options. I don't think Legacy is going to win as easily as Origin did.
No, I think even easier, but let's see. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that like the state of the fact that this alliance exists is a trouble for me for the game.
I mean, I get your point. I just don't think they're as strong as you paint them out to be comparatively now, because like there are other good players coming from EU2 as well. Which
but the problem is like I think, and this is a big problem on this game, but whenever an alliance starts to win, some players start to switch. So
I mean, you're always going to have that, and I think that's more down to the leadership of not accepting all these win dogs. But it just depends on how the season goes, right? I think the first couple of weeks of the season it'll be hard to tell, because obviously if it is blue lock, which I'm assuming it will be again, not as many people play anyway, and people don't take territory wars as seriously in those first couple of territory wars normally.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see once purple season unlocks, if they are doing the same lock they normally do. That'll definitely show more of a level of that. As to what's going to happen, but yeah, there's definitely.
Okay.
I think there's going to be more content than last season. Let's put it that way.
I'm just curious that May they will do a new server, because most of the time when they merge, they create a new server for the beginner to start.
What I hope they're going to do is if they do that, then every like 2-3 seasons they merge in the other server, make a new one, merge in the other server, make a new one, and do that, because that's what I suggested to them 10 seasons ago. And every Warlord session at the end of each season, I would say that to them, is that then keeps the population. They have a couple of seasons in an easier mode, and like don't let people transfer over there. If they want to make a new account, then sure, but don't let them transfer from the main server over to that one. They get a few seasons to unlock their units. They get to play with people on their level in territory wars. Then you merge them in. They become part of the main server. That keeps the population going in the main server. Then you make a new server, and you do that every couple of seasons. You have a cyclical effect to keep the population high. And I told them this so many seasons ago, and I hope that if they're going to do that, they do it.
Same, you know what? I tell them the same, and the thing is like I come on the game because there was a French content creator, like a big one, out of CB, that gets like a sponsor to play the game, and he loved the game, so he stayed on the game one season, and we do the full season with him, and he bring back like an alliance of 100 of French, 1,000 of French. So there was a lot of French. That's why there is still a big French community on it.
Well, it's like it was the same with the German population at the start. There was a big German streamer that played the game back in like pre-season 1. That's where we got so many German houses at the start. Because when I first started the game, it was predominantly German. You had ODT was like the only French house really at the time, and then you had all these German houses everywhere. There's a few other languages spattered in here and there, but it was predominantly German.
Okay, but this French content creator, he want to come back on the game, but he was waiting a new server. And I tell them, like, if you create a new server, he can make some new player with him and do one season, and after he gone again. But the thing is, like, he will not come on new one where there is billion of house made of veterans, where he cannot fight. Same on EU2 at this moment. It would be delusional to bring back new community of players because they will not be able to fight in TW. They will maybe be in Borderland.
Is that also down to the mentality of players, though? Because, and again, I'm biased because I'm talking from my perspective, but I've always put territory wars as the highest competitive part of the game. Should it be easy for people to get into it? That's another question to go on.
Like right now, if you bring back like 300 new people on the game and you make them do a TW, the time for them to learn is like more than a season. The time to unlock unit is more than a season. So the first season they will not get any fun, and the streamer will not do like season, like 2 or 3 seasons because it's like 6 months, so it's too huge for him, So he was waiting a new server to make back a community project like this and bring back some new player. But since they never do it, it was impossible. So I expect there is a new server this season.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Maybe they wait one season. Maybe they just do the one season of the merge and then they make a new server next season. I wouldn't put that past them either.
Yeah, possible.
But there needs to be a lot of hype to generate a new server. So
Definitely.
I hope they're doing that, because we won't see that advertising because we're already shoulders deep in this stuff.
Do you check the release of New World, the event that they do with the streamer, to bring a lot of people? Like they take I think 10 big French streamer, 10 big Spanish streamer, and 10 big German streamer, and they make face each other on the same server, the community.
Yeah,
so it brings so many people. This is like, you do the same on CB. It's the perfect game for it.
Yeah.
You ask some veteran to come lead the house and to help the streamer to rules it, and we can make so good fight and so many good content and bring so many good player, like new player on the game. because CB is so like following the TW of CB as a spectator. You know, if there is history and fight, it's so like it's really interesting. That's the way that I joined the game. So you know, I know that it's really passionate to follow TW when it's balanced and good build. So let's expect they understand this and they
Sorry,
will do some
what is that
crazy-
Musket's loadout? He's playing Explosive Bomb, he's playing Firebomb, and he's playing Double Escape. Like, what? Sorry, just got... it's so fucking weird.
Questionable.
Yeah, that was strange.
Yeah, I love that idea, but the big thing is that I'd hope that they would talk to some notable members of the veteran community to then help them, because
It's been a
as we
bit
know
in the past, right? The Mountain, when he played. Just bot games,
yeah,
and that was it.
just go against bots. Like, cool, but it doesn't achieve anything. No one stays as a result of it, because this is the current issue with the game: is the distance between new players and veterans is enormous. So they need to shrink that realistically. And
Yeah, but that's what we tell to in the Warlord channel. That one of the priority was to make the game more easier for the newcomer. And between these, there is Reforge, who make big gap, Masteries, who make even big gap. They had
Yep.
level on unit, who make even big gap. And they keep releasing season and not make some season 3 in the tree
Yeah.
of unit. So here, imagine yourself, you come on the game, you are new on the game, you have 16 season of unit to unlock. Like, how this is possible? You know that
not.
it's impossible for a newcomer. So they have to give, like, for me, the 10 first season should be give free to the new player in the unit tree at least, you know.
yeah, my a couple of friends of mine came back. They stopped playing like season 5 because they heard there was a returning player event where they got those signet rings, and they basically played it for a couple of days and went, I have maxed out every signet ring I could possibly get. Is that it? I unlocked one bonus unit.
To be fair, new players now, you get so much honor and things to help you level faster. Like, if you make a new account now, I don't know if any of you have tried it, but I've made a couple of new accounts this season because I was messing around with some stuff. It is so different now to what it used to be. Probably still not where it needs to be, but there's the different tutorials now, which tell you to play melee units. They tell you to get imp shields, they tell you to get palace guards, they tell you to get imp pikes. So you have that, firstly, which is better. Secondly, there's a new thing called the Drill Master Rewards, I think it's called, instead of the F4 quests. And they give you so many unit medals, honor, like you can, within 3 days of playing a couple of hours each day, you can get a triple tier 4 setup and basically max level them straight away.
Yeah, but the problem is seasonal units. No, but
Season-
Here's the thing, right? Seasonal units will always be a problem for them, but we've spoken about ways to fix it. But you don't need seasonal units to compete. Even in territories, you can.
Yeah,
People
that's
can
where
play
you're wrong.
with imp pikes and imp shields and things like that. They can still get you somewhere. Yes, it won't be as good as the players that have the seasonal units, but you can still get use out of them if they have someone that can tell them how to use those units. And that's the bigger issue: is getting people that will take in these new players.
If I'm a trader, I come on the game, I like tournament. I want to do tournament on the game because I want to be competitive. Here, impossible. Impossible
Yeah,
to
but
join tournament before.
I would say if it's CBL tournament, yes, because they use the tournament server. Rivals and stuff, I would agree with you, because it's all done on the live server, so you have to have the units. So I'd agree with you there. But that's where they need to have more fan-made tournaments made on the tournament server. As much as we can talk badly about it, like, there was tournaments in the past, like the Quarto tournament, that were a better format for the game than Rivals, I would say, because they were done on the tournament server. And so it was more open to getting new players in. I know that the tournament itself wasn't run that well, there's issues with it, but we're not going to go into that. But having it run on the tournament server is so much healthier for the game, because people can actually play it at any level. And it's not,
Yeah, but
you're not
you know the
gatekept by having
problem
to
of
have the
it?
units.
With Eclairid, we joined it the first time in season 6. We was level like 300. The
Someone
problem
built
is
a
like
crow.
it's one elimination tournament, so you play one game and
Yeah.
done.
This could be true, but that's where we can get more now, where they've said they want to focus more on the fan-made tournaments, get more made on the tournament server. One of their team built a fucking crow in this game.
Like you want a league on the tournament server, like the CB rival, but in tournament server.
I think Rivals wouldn't work on it because there's too many players and teams involved in the format that it's currently in, and it would be impossible because you wouldn't be able to change players if you didn't have enough, which is one of the strengths of Rivals, that you can rotate players in and out easily, and so it wouldn't be as welcoming there. But I think if you had like a double elimination tournament format done on the tournament server, that is a much better place to do it, because it's more inviting to more players, if that makes sense. You don't have to have everything maxed.
You can make the feudal on it and the rustic on the normal one.
Potentially. Or just have a separate tournament. Just have another tournament mode on it. Like, they're talking about they want to support more and they want people to get onto the tournament server to do it. So let's get a tournament made on the tournament server that's on a different day to Rivals, different when outside of Rivals times, whatever. Or it can be at the same time. It doesn't really matter. Like this, it can be run at the same time, but not on the same day. If you know what I mean. And just
if we
have it on the
address
tournament
that
server.
point, if we address that with the
Game
future of
crash.
CBL, we're not ruling out CBL completely, but at the moment it's not a primary focus. Recently we've been focused on community tournaments. Any creators and interesting players can join our tournament server, and we encourage you to make tournaments for everyone to enjoy. Like, that interpretation for me is that there's a tournament server that we can now all apply for.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, it's really tough to make it on tournament server because you have to gather the ID. People can switch the player, so you will have a lot of DNF like we got in Corto. Because Corto, there was some other trouble with it, but there was also trouble with DNF because you do it in same time on the same rival. Plus you have limit because you need to get ID on it to get the access. So that means you can switch player. So sometimes you have a team that can participate, and your tournament is like when you have too much in the night and one of the too much is DNF, you lose a lot of content. So there is a lot of issue when you play on tournament server compared to where you're on the normal one. That's why in Nation Cup they asked me if I want to be on tournament server, and I was like, don't think it's it's valuable, you know.
Yeah. Right, I am very conscious of the time, and I think we should wrap up there. Madshin,
Okay.
thank you very much. Is there any? What would we say are like the 3 key things that we should take away from this discussion? Even one key thing.
Dev are not delusional for on the state of the game.
Yep.
It looks like they want to bet on the long term on the game, so they will not give up the game and let it die slowly. So this is good news for the future. And the problem is that as a player, long term is all the time too long because one season for us is pretty long, but for a dev is not that much long in terms of what he can do. So we have to be really patient, and sometimes some people struggle, you know, to be patient and say that game, the game is dead, and they're crying and they put bad mentality in the game. I will not say name, but I think Temple have some idea of who I'm targeting. So
what
yeah,
you're talking about.
some little animals, you know, that can fly.
Let's see, Eldith put that post in the chat.
I think me and him both crashed at the same time. Maybe it was your flames that caused us to crash, Eldith.
Yeah, I think they're very good points. And the other one for me is the proposed like ambassador role. I don't think it should be one person. I think it should be a team of people, and they should be nominated, not stepping forward themselves. Like they should be nominated and say yes, I'm happy to do it, not I want to do it, I want to do it, I want to do it.
My understanding is that is the case.
Good.
So I know
Good.
a couple of people have been asked to be the ambassadors already. I don't know if that's the purpose of this role, but there is an ambassador role being created at the moment. I've already been made aware of it because I've been asked to do it, Amir's been asked to do it, and Super Kitovic's been asked to do it at the moment. That's the 3 names that I'm aware of. But I don't think it's in the respect of what we're thinking here. It's more of they're there to answer questions on the official Discord for new players that have questions. I think it's more tailored towards that, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Well, answering the questions of the new players is all well and good, and it is actually a good thing because you don't want the recommendation to unlock Javelin Militia as the best unit in the game.
That's one of the things that I that's why I raised it, because I think it's partly because of the conversation I had with the CMs, because I was like, the amount of times I'll go onto the official Discord, people go, you should get green Javs, guys, they're the best unit in the game. And I'm just like, that is not what you want to be recommending to new players. And that's why I made training grounds as well.
But we want to get rid of the attitude of, oh, where'd you get that evidence from? Oh, just trust me, bro. Like that just doesn't work, and it's why a lot of people have stopped playing when they never even get past level 50, because they're presented with a problem and they go and they try and ask in the community Discord, oh, how do I get more powdered silver? And the response is play more. Like, that doesn't help the person, the new player, learn. So having an ambassador role or a recommended point of contact is a very, very good idea. I like that, but we need to have someone who's responsible for communicating with the devs. and gathering information on proper unit and champion feedback, and not happy to sit there and say or get feedback from the game dev saying, oh yeah, but it's got a 50% win rate, it's clearly a balanced unit, or we don't see it as a problem, or things like that. We need the people that are providing the evidence.
Yeah, I think just to round it off, like, this has been a great update, the dev update. This is much needed. The community's been wanting this. This is the direction we need to go, where there is more communication between the devs and the players. This is fantastic. It's still not where it needs to be, but it's a good step in the right direction.
Yep, I think this has been the most excited I've been about the game in about 8 months, outside of tournaments. I think it's really good.
And my next question is, CBL when? I ask them all the time. I'm asking them, and they're just like, oh,
I'm pretty sure it will be February, like 1 year after the first one.
Yeah.
It looks logical because it's they will not place it at the same time as CBL Asia, because Booming will not be agree, because they want CBL Asia to get all the viewer, who looks logical. So it should be for me after it, like the last time. It was like 1 month after it, so it should be February. I think so. And I will be there to win it with no bitches.
And I'll be there with you.
Yes. People don't know the Mercato, you know it's not public, but...
Oh, he's told everyone.
I haven't, I told like 2 people.
No, he
And one of them's in this call. Right, Mad, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to head off there. Temple, please don't delete this recording. And...
Good luck
thanks
editing
very much.
it. Yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. And if anyone has any
You
more questions in
swore
chat,
like crazy.
I swore
I'm
a few
not-
times.
I'm
You
not
can bleep it
editing
out.
this. No, I'm literally just posting the entire video on and scalping the content. GG. You even got some MVPs in there. Your Reapers did very well. Congratulations.
I got like 1 MVP, I think, because I'm just half concentrating, half reading chat, half listening to you guys and talking. It's very difficult to do 3 things at once.
Yeah, you did surprisingly well, actually, in that sense. Right,
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, catch you later, guys. Cheers
have a
for
good
popping in.
rest of the stream.
And like I said, if anyone wants to carry on chatting in stream, I'll still be here, obviously, playing away. So feel free to keep asking questions.
Right, catch you later.
Have a good time.
See you later, guys.
See you.
Yeah, but tell us the Ashigaru. So I quite like them in one regard, in that they are a very high range, high accurate musket, but they're just not that good. The main issue for me is I found that they kept, when you press 1, all of them will shoot one individual model, whether that's a Surf, whether that's a Reaper, whether that's a Shield or not, so you could just spend, like, you could overkill basically, because they'll all shoot one individual model together before they target the next thing. Anyway, Vet, stop talking in chat, come back and play the game. But yeah, no, Ashigarus could be decent in some very specific stages, but yeah, overall I think they're just not strong enough. I mean, they kind of have a double shot, but they weren't really sold with double shot, they were sold with a targeted area, which they do have, right? And it's on a 5-second cooldown now, so technically you can fire once, press it, it resets the animation. And I can see them being useful for sniping some heroes, because their accuracy is really good as well. But yeah, it's just, eh. What food have you got then, Vet? So you've obviously ordered some food if you're waiting for it. Oh, that means I can put the little background music back on now. I'm gonna go on a little trip. Hello, buddy. I'm going for your crow. I might not even get it because there's a lot of people over here. Ah, you missed. Hey, I did get it. Can I get out now as well? That remains to be seen. Probably not. Oh, Partisan came to save me. That's nice. Mr. Musket, can you stop, please? Partisan, we can kill him. We can kill him. Let's go. Get wrecked. No, I was too far away. I can't hit him. No, I'm just going to get out of here. Thank you very much.